delightful, charming, sumptuous, piquant, yummy. These are words you would normally use to describe a particularly juicy apple, or perhaps melon. But today, we're using them to introduce the world's best and most scrumptious video game music podcast, Bit Harmony.
You're listening to the best video game music podcast in the entire universe, Bit Harmony, and I'm Matt.
And I'm Seth.
Today, to further cement the greatest video game music podcast statement, we're talking about Paper Mario, the Thousand-Year Door. Seth and I have a lot to say about this, and I apologize in advance if you listen to both All In and Bit Harmony, because
you'll be all right.
We're just gonna talk. This past week is just a lot of Paper Mario talk, but yeah, you'll get over it. Shut up, it's fine. Anyway, our intro this episode is the Chapter 6 battle theme from the Paper Mario Thousand-Year Door remaster, remake. I don't know. We'll get into it at some point, but yeah, it's the Chapter 6 battle theme from the Switch version of Thousand-Year Door, and we will be right back. And that was the Chapter 6 battle theme from the Switch version of Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. We will get into like composer credits and stuff like that in a little bit. But just in terms of that song, I also kind of wanted to start the whole show off with like most of the songs we're going to play on this episode we're going to play the GameCube original and the Switch version back to back, just so you can have like a point of comparison. With this one, I just felt like you don't really need to hear the original battle theme. I don't know if you agree with that, Seth, but it's just like, no, I'm just going to present you this cool jazzy little song.
Yeah, I mean, like the original. I mean, the one thing about this, and again, you know, we're gonna compare and contrast a lot of things here today. And you know, I guess spoiler top level thoughts. Most of the new stuff I don't prefer to the old stuff, but the pretty major exception to that rule are the battle themes. And this kind of like Chapter 6 battle theme is the best one in the game by a wide margin. And they're all really good in my opinion. But yeah, like I'm glad we started off with a good one, with just this jazzy, high octane, Western Cowboy Bebop, Team Fortress 2 vibe, you know?
yeah. Like my immediate thought when playing this, and I said it on the All In podcast last week, but yeah, this sounds like a Cowboy Bebop song or something. It's so, I don't know, it's so energetic. And, you know, Paper Mario games, their soundtracks should be energetic. They're just very kind of, I don't know, they're just feel-good games all around. So it makes sense that they have feel-good soundtracks too. But yeah, I don't know, they did just such a good job, like you said, with all the battle themes. And yeah, to emphasize, the normal battle theme in Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door in the GameCube version, that's like all you hear besides like boss fights or like special fights or whatever.
Yeah.
Just the normal version of that song. Whereas here, every single chapter has its own rearrangement of the battle theme. And that I believe that started with Origami King. I don't think they did that earlier than Origami King, but yeah, Origami right. King has its own battle theme for each section of the game, and they're all fantastic there too. We will get into that at some point as well. I'm honestly really itching to talk about Origami King because I've been playing that the past few days. Though I don't know, we should probably just do an Origami. Should we just turn this into an Origami King episode?
just let's go ahead and pivot real quick. We just talk about Origami Kings. That game's better than this one.
Hold on, we got save. I agree with you, but save those takes for a little bit. But yeah, I you know, in terms of like this specific song, you know, I really love like around 30 seconds in where they bring in the strings alongside the horns.
Yeah,
and then the way they kind of like the strings kind of crescendo into bringing the horns back in, and then it starts turning into this tag team of horns, strings, and then they kind of come together.
Yeah,
it's so good. I agree with you that for the most part I find the new themes at best they're like as good, or like they're not offensive or whatever. Right. And yeah, the battle themes are the big exception. But yeah, this is one of the few where I'm just like, oh, this is fantastic. Like this is objectively, this is one of the best songs I've heard in a game this year. You know, I just really loved it. Did you have any other specific thoughts about this song, or did you have any of the other chapter battle themes you wanted to shout out? Because I have a couple.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that for this one, I do have a note about the dueling instruments kind of tone of this. There's a thing that is popular down south where I live, where like in New Orleans, there's a really famous bar called Pat O'Brien's. It's kind of like a tourist trap, but they do like dueling pianos there on Saturdays. And I always like that. Like anytime I'm there, I like to stop in there just to see that, even though it's kind of like, it's a bit of a gimmick, but there's something kind of, you know, old timey Who Framed Roger Rabbit ass vibes about that, you know?
Yeah.
And I kind of dig that. And this kind of has a little bit of that. Like I like it anytime, you know, and this is popular in jazz music anyways, especially, when you're seeing live jazz music, there'll typically be like some kind of moment where, you know, whatever, the trombone player or the saxophone player will kind of be competing for time with each other, and each of them are kind of fighting for the spotlight. And this music, even though that is all kind of baked into the composition, this song does have a little bit of that flavor in there, and I do dig that about it. It kind of feels a little less. I think a lot of the switch arrangements, and you're going to hear me say this a lot this episode, a lot of the switch arrangements of the songs in this game are kind of like the production is very like clean and shimmery and like orchestral, and like let's just add a bunch of brass where it doesn't belong. But with this, like it kind of, I don't know, like it feels appropriate, and they actually make it feel a little bit more raw, I think, than it feels in other places. But yeah, it's really, really good. This is my favorite one by far, but I liked all of the battle themes, really.
Yeah, I liked all of them, though the ones that also stand out in my head, there's the chapter 3 one, which is the Glitz Pit, the wrestling area one, which it's good that one's good, because that's you have to hear the battle music quite a lot there. But yeah, it's got like, I don't know, kind of like wrestling bombast, and even like a little Latin flair to it, which
totally
that really fits the wrestling theme. I liked the chapter 4 battle theme, which has like a very theremin yokai watch kind of sound going on. And then also I wanted to give a special shout out to chapter 7 for having 2 unique battle themes. There's like this area, this tiny little stretch in the snow where you're going to the Babam village, and there's a handful of enemies there, and it plays like an icy version of the battle theme. But then, the big surprise of that chapter is that you go somewhere else,
right.
And that somewhere else is a very different kind of theme and visuals and stuff. Yeah, they did 2 battle themes for chapter 7 for that, so that was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't have made sense to have like they sort of had to, because when you the second area, is it like Poshly Heights or whatever, that second area, like it wouldn't have really made sense to have to have stuff like that in there, and then like especially when you start getting into things like the moon and stuff like this stuff needs to have different music to it. So I do appreciate they put in the legwork.
Yeah, they just did a great job all around, and I'm very excited to, like, once we get through the generalities of our opening and Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, like to really get in there and start talking about Paper Mario as a whole series or whatever. But like I said, we'll save that for a little bit. But anyway, I think that's all I had to say about the chapter 6 battle theme. So let's move on to our general housekeeping. I believe we always do this in like a weird order, but let's just go for it. You had a review? We had a new review this episode, right?
We did get a new review from the very own Presto the Magnificent, who you're going to hear pretty soon. There's going to be a very Presto themed episode this week, so shout outs to Presto. Yeah, he did leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Presto says, the best VGM show out there. Seth and Matt both know so much about both music and the games that they come from. Connecting the feel of the song to the feel of the game is something they're really good at, while also just being so generally knowledgeable. It's also really well edited and feels super professional. Wouldn't expect anything less from the All In family of podcasts, and looking forward to the continuation of this show. Presto the Magnificent. I've never heard somebody use the phrase All In family of podcasts, which is really funny. And I would love, like, I would love to do this sort of like overwrought, thank you for listening to the Bit Harmony of Video Game Music podcast on the All In family of podcasts. Like that kind of overwrought Nintendo speech,
Right, like the whole older YouTube channels that have like a 30-second montage opening of like a bunch of video game footage all running together over this grandiose theme. I like stuff like that quite a bit. I don't have Seth tell me about like any reviews ahead of time, so I did not know the text of that review until just now. So it's funny that I opened the episode saying we're the best video game music podcast in the universe or whatever. So yeah, Presto and I are on the same page. That's good. I think we have similar love about like Paper Mario as a series too. So that's good. We will, like you said, this will be a Presto centric episode, but we will get to the rest of Presto's place in this podcast. Wow, that was a lot of P's. We'll get to that.
Little dedicated segment Presto's Place.
Presto's
that.
Playhouse, yeah.
He also,
Presto's Paper Mario Playhouse, yeah.
There you go. Presto's Paper Mario Playhouse. I like that. Well, I will say too, like, for anybody who wants to leave a review, those are always really appreciated. Quick, easy, free, whatever. If you listen to us on a podcast service, there's probably a way to review the show, and leave your review. And if it's a written review, I'll shout it out. It's always appreciated, and it's fun to read those. So thank you, Presto.
Yeah, thank you, Presto, and thank you for sending in the voicemail, which, again, we'll get to in a little bit. But before we do that, did you have any kind of post-mortem thoughts on the Mega Man 9 episode, the most recent episode that we did?
I felt like that one, it was really fun. I had a lot of fun recording that one. I feel like that's the first in-depth Mega Man conversation I've ever been into in my life. I feel like I'd never, it struck me, because I told you this after we got done recording it. I was like, yeah, like I felt a little intimidated going into that episode because I knew that we were going to talk about kind of the series at large in addition to Mega Man 9, and I knew that I didn't have the same sort of like depth of love or experience with it that you did, so I felt a little intimidated by it. But then as we were kind of getting into it, I was like, oh, like, I have more interesting things to say about Mega Man than I expected myself to have, I guess. And I think it's because, I don't know that I've ever sat down and really just like chewed the fat on Mega Man. Not once in my life, I don't think. And so that was a lot of fun. I feel like there weren't that many people that like sounded off. Like normally we have people in the Discord talking about the episode and stuff like that. I feel like that one, I was surprised that not that many people seemed to have experience with Mega Man 9 to the point where it seemed to like discourage some people from listening to the episode, which I thought was interesting because it's like a Mega Man game, So yeah, that was an interesting reaction, I think.
Yeah. So first of all, you do yourself a disservice. I think you're just a pretty fun person to talk to in general. You could probably like figure out interesting things to say about something you have no idea about. I think. So.
I don't know. I'm self-conscious about that, especially when I knew that you had such a love for Mega Man. So
see, yeah, I mean that's getting into like the idea of like the biggest fan in the room like is obviously the most knowledgeable. I'm an idiot, I do love Mega Man 9, but like don't come to me asking what like the boss order of Mega Man 4 is. I don't know anything. I just in particular love Mega Man 9 a lot. I mean, I love the whole series. It's funny. I brought up Jim, my buddy Jim, on that podcast a couple times, but I specifically remember when Mega Man 9 was revealed in Smash and we went to Denny's that night, and all we did for a couple hours at Denny's was just talk about how cool Mega Man in Smash looked. So, like, I have had those conversations about Mega Man, but it was also just it was just geeking out, it wasn't like intellectualism. It's just like, oh, did you see when his grab animation, it looks like the guts throw animation from Mega Man 1. It's just geeky stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. I don't ever want you to downplay your, I don't know, you having interesting things to say at some point or another. Sure, all of us are going to not be as knowledgeable about something as the other.
Sure,
but,
yeah.
I really look forward to, I liked when we talked extensively, or you talked extensively about Phantom Dust, because it's just something that I don't really know about, but it was fun to hear about. So I look forward to one of these days we'll do an episode that is you are the one in control of the whole thing instead of me dictating all the little intricacies of what Mega Man 9 songs were.
Well, that'll be the Kingdom Hearts episode. That'll be,
but the Kingdom Hearts I can talk about, as the listeners know by now. But yes, I don't doubt that you have more experience with Kingdom Hearts.
That'll be when my true form will be revealed.
All right, we've just bumped that back from the 100th episode to the 300th episode. So,
yeah, put that off for as long as you can get away with.
Yeah, there was, I got to sound off in the Discord more than usual because people were bringing up like Mega Man as a series and talking about like not liking Mega Man X as much as the OG series, which that I
was
found interesting.
Yeah, that was interesting, right? Yeah.
I feel like I don't see that opinion very much. I fully agree. I generally, I like X1 and X4, but even then I don't think either of those are anywhere close to like Mega Man 2, 3, 9, 10, something like that. So that was interesting to hear, because I feel like I rarely ever hear people making that claim. We didn't really get to, we didn't talk extensively about it or in depth about it, so didn't really get to hear why. I would be curious if anyone listening has those thoughts. Please let me know why in the All-In Discord. I gotta load up on ammunition for the next time a Mega Man X person comes at me. I did get the chance to shill 30XX in the Discord, which I don't often get to do that. So I'll just shout it out here again. If you like Mega Man games, not just X, it is mostly inspired by X4, but if you like Mega Man games a lot and you've not played 30XX, it is a roguelite take on Mega Man X4. It was one of my favorite games of 2023. I feel like in like a lesser year that would have been my number one, but last year was just so crazy with games that it just couldn't. But yeah, I'm always happy to be able to shout out 30XX, which to me is like the most overlooked indie game of the past few years, at least to like compared to what it feels like it should have been. Like in a post Hades world, it feels like 30XX should have been bigger than it was to me, but it just didn't get the support, I guess. In regards to any postmortem on the episode, I don't have anything else to say except I did finish the newest season of The Circle.
Oh, let's go.
I will say, yeah, I don't think people care if we get like a little into spoilers about The Circle. I feel like probably the two of us are the only ones involved in this podcast. Yeah. That ride or die gimmick in the second.
It was a cool gimmick. Yeah.
It was awesome. It was really, really good. Especially because of like the way it was handled, of like, it wasn't just random pairings or quote unquote random pairings, but it's actually just the producers pairing people together. Like, no, this was actual like chance based off of how you're answering questions. It really changed the strategy of the game. I would almost have loved it if they just kept it going at least a little while longer than they did, because it was only one blocking that they did it for, right? It's not the kind of show I feel like people would think would make someone emotional, especially someone like me. Like, I don't know, I feel like I project this image of like I'm a very a logical person, that I'm not gonna like cry at a dumb Netflix reality show. I got teary-eyed a couple times, especially with the ride or die thing and the person choosing to sacrifice themselves so that their ride or die could stay in the game. That was genuinely like touching.
Like that moment, I truly did not expect that to happen.
No, especially the way they were editing it. No, I did not expect that to happen.
Like, there is no universe in which I thought that person would put themselves second. That person just came across the entire show as being so self-focused and self-centered. There was no universe in which I thought that they were going to sacrifice themselves, and that was very touching to me. And like the ending was touching to me too, like the person who ended up winning that. And it's funny because I saw people on Twitter talking about how like annoying they were and stuff like this. And,
oh, really?
And I think it's just, it's just people's like, I'm sorry that this is probably spoiling The Circle for anybody who might tangentially care, but it's just
skip forward a minute or two. It's fine.
Yeah, it's just I think it's just the wider population's like inherent judgments about like like an overweight ginger gay man. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
I think that people see that person and they're like immediately choosing to be annoyed by them, and just the way that he talked about like, and this is a common theme with The Circle in general, especially for people who come in to The Circle as a catfish. Like they're sort of able to express themselves and kind of like feel a little bit of a sense of belonging, and to see that person, especially at the end when he won, be surrounded by all of those people hugging him as he's crying and stuff. That's probably the only time he's ever felt that way in his life. you know?
Yeah, sure.
And that really got to me. So yeah, I was kind of a little lukewarm on this season coming into like the first kind of half of it. I didn't feel like I was really connecting with a lot of the contestants, and you know, the AI gimmick was kind of neat, but they didn't really go that far with it. But the second half really won me over. Yeah.
I will say I was very glad. You know, I'm very bad with remembering names on the show, so like I'm just gonna have to mostly be referring to people by like their archetype, kind of, or what they were doing. I was very glad Corey Tyler did not win. I don't like people who come into games like this, but especially the Circle, trying to play like this super logistician type of like, oh, I've got this game worked down to a science.
Like a
I can
sociopath.
do the... Yeah, I hated it. I genuinely was like upset. Also, the Big J or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm assuming he was playing it up for cameras and the fact that he's on reality TV, but like I don't know, his take on things is very he came across like a C tier like Batman villain. It was just very like
like, thought he was way cooler than he was.
Yeah, and like I appreciated that he did genuinely throw a wrench into everything. I feel like
he did.
So many people like think they do that, you know. On the Circle, a lot of it's like, oh, I sent a snide little anonymous picture. I really threw a wrench in everything, and then no one else cares. Like, he actually like changed like the trajectory of that game, and I'll give him credit for that. But yeah, no, there wasn't anyone that I was like really hoping would win. I think the two people I wanted to win the most were the people who got first and second place. So like, I'm fine with that. I was mostly just glad that a person I couldn't stand. I'm glad no one like that won. So for me, it was a success. I thought it was pretty good.
And it's also impossible, right? Like, as the show continues, and like one of the things that I like so much, because I normally couldn't care less about shows like this, but what I like about The Circle is that you can tell that the producers also are fans of The Circle. I love that feeling of like they have thought of these interesting little ways to, you know, regardless of how much of a forced or authored hand they have in creating these things, they do come up with neat ideas to keep the game like fresh and to keep people on their toes. If that is, you know, like the season where it was like a dude and his mom having to run the character, you know, like they always have like interesting little wrinkles in it, and I really appreciate that about the show. And while it's never gonna be like, I remember when I first discovered The Circle, that first season with like Shuby and Joey, like that is so like precious to me. Like I'll never forget the first time I watched that first season. It felt so cool and fresh. It's never gonna quite be there ever again, but it is nice that like something like The Circle on like 6 seasons now is still engaging enough for me to care about it, you know?
Yeah, it's just fun.
Yeah, it's fun, and it's kind of my, like, I've never been the type, I've never watched, like, Survivor or anything like that, so, like, I feel like I get to engage with a little bit of that, like, cultural zeitgeist TV in a little bit of a way, so, yeah, I don't know.
I appreciate that it's, unlike Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, it's less horny than you would expect.
Yeah, it is.
Because of the inherent fact of like everyone is separated and you don't see each other until blockings happen and stuff. Like there is a little bit, but it's usually it's just for gameplay purposes or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. There is something just nice about The Circle that even like other Netflix reality TV shows. You know, I've tried watching some of them and it's all garbage. This is like the only one that, I mean, if you like garbage, there is some pretty decent garbage.
For sure.
On the reality TV front there. But this is the only one that feels like it has a clever idea, that there's actually something there that is like nice, and I don't want to say inspiring, that's too strong of a word, but there is something like, I hate the word wholesome now too, but there's something kind of wholesome. There's something about The Circle.
I mean, there's something human about it for sure,
yeah.
Right? And like, I would recommend, the only 2 shows like this that I like are The Circle and The Traitors. So I would recommend The Traitors to fans of The Circle as well. It's not, the game itself is not similar, but it has that similar quality to it that I really like. And the game and the moments it creates, I think are really good. Real quick, before this just becomes the Circle podcast. How did you feel about Miles? Did you like him?
I hated him in the first chunk of episodes, and then he grew on me to where I was like, yeah, no, Miles is pretty cool.
Yeah, my wife and I disagree heavily on Miles because she hates him. Like to her, he's just like the typical, douchebag you'd see in the club or whatever. And he is, but for me, I love it when I love idiots anyway. I love people who come across that way, I love that kind of himbo energy, that kind of bravado, but he's also kind of he's lanky and a little mousy, and he works in AI, he works for Tesla or whatever, and he's funny because he comes across as yeah, hey, I'm just trying, where the ladies at, he's that kind of guy, but then he's also low-key really smart.
To me, he was the only one that was playing pure emotionally. There was no gameplay. I felt basically. I mean, there was some, but for the most part, he just seemed like he was just having fun and just there to have fun, and that's what I like about the Circle.
He's just so funny because in the same breath as he's yeah, I mean, I'm gonna get my flirt on, you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna talk to these ladies and whatever, but then in the same breath he's yeah, this painting reminds me of Picasso's Blue Period. I'm dude, what are you talking about?
He honestly, he's if Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad had an MBA or something.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
You'd see him reading books on coding and programming and stuff. Everybody else is doing whatever it is they're doing, putting puzzles together or making breakfast, and he's reading books.
Dude, he sent Corey Tyler breakfast in bed, so I would love to know cute. A behind the scenes thing of how did he get that going, in terms of speaking with the producers of do you just yell into the camera, hey, can I send my girlfriend breakfast in bed? Yeah, that's cute. I would love to know how that happened or whatever. I'm sure it's not that interesting. It's probably exactly what I just said, but yeah, no, I ended up liking Miles, but I agree that he had the first 2 episodes. I'm please get this dude off of here. But then by the back half, I'm no, I think Miles is pretty cool.
Yeah, he has a lot of the same things that I love about Joey, who is one of my favorite reality game show contestants of all time.
I will say, I've seen Joey on some of the other Netflix reality shows, and I think I don't like him at all.
I like him less in some, I watched that Perfect Match show that they did, that had Joey on it, and he's way more, a little bit of his true nature was revealed there. But I want to hold Joey just on a pedestal. I want to put Joey in my mind. I want Circle Season 1 Joey to be the Joey that I remember,
He'll get there someday, maybe.
Anyway, thank you for listening to the Circle Cast.
I can't wait to we need to watch something real esoteric at the same time, and then get on here, and then just have an hour-long thing in the middle of Bit Harmony. Maybe this is where the fabled Twin Peaks rewatch happens.
Oh,
and then
dude.
Just every couple of weeks, we're hey, did you watch episode 6 of season 1 of Twin Peaks? Yeah, here's a 40-minute breakdown on it. I think that would be a lot of fun.
That would be legit. Yeah, I've always wanted to do that. I've always wanted to do that Twin Peaks rewatch. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be Twin Peaks talk, and then we'll get into Animal Crossing soundtrack right after. It'll be good.
It'd be so sick.
Anyway, let's talk about some Paper Mario, or rather, let's play Presto's voicemail that we mentioned half an hour ago.
Okay. All right. Here comes Presto.
Hey, Seth, Matt.
Hey, Presto.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, its music, and a bit of the Paper Mario franchise music in general. So, first of all, I guess I should start with how I found The Thousand Year Door. I'd always heard great things about this game, and I think it was Game Explain who was... This was back in 2020. They were doing a playthrough of the game, and I happened that summer, to fly off my bike and break both of my arms. Now, when both of your arms are broken and in cast, it's kind of hard to hold the controller in a normal way.
I imagine.
That lets you, do platformers, which is my favorite genre, or even Mario Kart. So I was okay, so I can play RPGs. And I saw the Game Explain was doing Thousand Year Door, so I started playing Thousand Year Door as soon as I opened up the game. I was hit with the menu music, which like at first it's just like slow and like epic, it starts it off, and then it hits like the happy Mario tone, and I kid you not, I stayed on that menu for a good like 5 minutes before I even booted up the game, just because the main menu theme was so... I loved it a lot. It does the perfect... It's like 10 in the morning right now as I'm recording this, so I'm not being very insightful here. But it's almost like a mix
10 in the morning, not that early, Presto, but it's fine.
Not that early, but that's all right.
That Square Enix RPG kind of feel, which is what I like about just all of the soundtracks. Like, it just feels a little bit more epic than basic Mario game, if that makes any sense. I don't know.
Makes sense.
But yeah, I booted up that main menu, stood on there for 5 minutes, and then I was like playing through Rogueport. I like Rogueport's theme. It's good. I'm enjoying it. And then I got to Petal Meadows, and that's the second time in the game where I just stopped. And for me, the original Petal Meadows is just everything Mario put into one song. That song is the spirit of Mario for me. Just the way, like, it sounds very similar to... I felt like it's a remix of the bass, like
Yep.
Except for it's again a lot more epic feeling just because it's an RPG, and it starts with all of that build up, and especially like the original one, the instrumentation feels very it's almost chiptune-y in a way. The song just brings me a lot of joy. Especially, like, this is what hyped me up hearing the song in the Kazuki remake trailer. And the original one is, like,
this is where I start to lose you a little bit, Presto.
I meant to warn everyone, I forgot, that the audio quality was not the greatest, especially in the second half, but I will interpret what I can after the voicemail is
I guess now I'm
okay. Matt will translate what Presto's saying.
Other Paper Mario games. So, Paper Mario Color Splash.
Okay,
right?
I got that. Color Splash. Let's go.
Now, this is a game that's widely like. This is not a great Paper Mario game or a great game in general. It has a lot.
I disagree, but we'll get into
But
it.
go off, I guess.
Is
Yeah.
one of my favorite things from the entire game. Cherry Lake, specifically from Paper Mario Color Splash, is probably top 20 video game songs for me. Period. Cherry Lake gives this like it's a cozy vibe, but also with a little bit of that Mario flavor. I don't know what the Mario flavor is, but it feels.
I imagine it's cherry,
Mario.
just like Cherry Lake. We'll go with
Cherry
that.
Lake does it in
Yeah.
such a cozy
Mario,
way. But,
yeah,
like,
that
I
Mario
can fall asleep
flavor.
with it into the song. It's really nice. I love it. And I thought, oh yeah, that's gonna be the best Paper Mario thing that I'm gonna hear from like modern Paper Mario. I'm just listening to like a Mario music playlist, and then Toad Town Green Streamer Removal specifically from Paper Mario the Origami King comes on, and that song hits. Like, I was just doing my homework as I was listening to music, and then this song turned on, and my brain went, no homework, we're listening to this song. It's completely worth it.
Remember homework?
There's like
Yeah.
guitar.
Yeah. I had homework like 2 years ago, so I do remember homework.
It's like it's happy guitar. It's celebratory. It feels like I haven't played Murakami, but
Okay, this is when it starts getting real bad. He's basically just talking about he likes when guitars are in a song, but not the lead instrument, and also that the guitars sound happy.
So happy for you.
Okay.
And this song
I did
really
hear guitar a few times in there.
the guitar plus the backing
There it is,
music.
guitar.
My favorite thing is when guitar is used like in a happy fashion. That's like I don't know. Like, most guitar music is more the driving kind, but guitar can be really happy sometimes.
Most of the guitar is the driving,
Right.
is what he just said, I think. The driving type.
Right. So then he likes it when guitars just kind of are in the background and sound more happy.
I'm talking about the original Petal Meadows, the remix. I
The
feel
remix,
like
I hear that.
the remake of Petal Meadows, the song remake, is actually better than the original. That might be a hot take. I know a lot of people
He's saying the new Pedal Meadows he thinks is better than the original, which may be a hot take. He doesn't know. This is the part where it gets real bad.
Origami King throws that
and yeah, now he's talking about how they, like you said in All In last week, they kind of Origami Kingified the 1,000-Year Door.
Even when it like goes off and does a different thing than the original soundtrack does, still really good. Yeah, there's a lot of Origami, but that's not a bad thing. I really like what they did to make it sound closer to the original, still having the melodies of the older games. And that they just did an insane job of doing that, and that gives me so much joy. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
That's all he has to say.
So much for listening to my rant about Paper Mario that probably wasn't very planned, but enjoy the rest of the show. I'm excited to listen to it. Have a harmonizing day. I don't know what to say.
I love that. Have a harmonizing day if you couldn't make that out. Very cute.
I do want to quickly shout out that Seth and I have been talking recently about like the act of sending in voicemails, not making any promises. We have to look into stuff. This literally only came up last night, but like we're going to try and look into a better way for you to send us in voicemails, voice recordings. Ideally, like the best thing would be is if we had a phone number you could actually call it. I think that would be a lot of fun and would like contribute to like the physicality of feeling like you're actually calling in somewhere. Again, not making any promises, but if we could at least get like a web page up that you could just directly record on, I think that would be an improvement and make it more convenient for people to be able to do that. But again, we only just thought about it last night, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, I understand that it's a bit of a pain in the ass to like record yourself and then separately email it or DM it or whatever, you know. It could be cleaner. Yeah, I mean, like ideally in a, in a dream situation, I would love to just say, yeah, call 1-800-BitHarmony or whatever, and leave a voicemail. But yeah, I don't know. So I just, hopefully we can figure out something like that to make it a little bit easier and encourage more voicemails. And I mean, Presto, thank you so much for sending that in. That was, despite the fact that, your audio quality was way in and out there, I still appreciate you for sending in such a detailed voicemail with like a lot to say. And the entire time listening to that voicemail, I was sort of just imagining Presto laid up with both arms in a cast.
Yeah.
Playing Paper Mario.
When I was listening to it last night, I was imagining him in like a full body cast, just completely stationary, but his fingers could still press a GameCube controller.
But I can still play Paper Mario, baby.
Well, and it's funny, like, I imagine I've never broken anything on my body. I hyperextended my knee once, and that was awful, but I still wasn't like laid up for like a whole summer or whatever. I imagine breaking a limb on your body, that probably is the perfect time to play a Paper Mario game. That just seems real cozy and nice. And so for one, Presto, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. I'm sorry that was your first experience with 1,000-Year Door, but clearly you ended up liking it. So I'm glad. I'm also glad that you shouted out specific Color Splash and Origami King songs. I think those soundtracks are out of this world.
They're really good.
I totally forgot about that Cherry Lake theme until he brought that up. I'm like, oh yeah. Like when he said that, I immediately paused. I'm like, which one is Cherry Lake? And then I listened to it and I'm like, oh yeah, this one is
excellent.
Really, really, really good. My favorite song off of Color Splash was Blue Bay Beach, which is just like a beachy little number. It's just fantastic. I'm sure I'll put it below us talking for a little bit here, but and yeah, we're going to talk about Paper Mario in general, I think, because for one, I just think we kind of need to talk about the series as a whole.
Sure.
Not to mention, we did a whole in-depth review with you, me, and Eric last week in All In, if you want to hear just specifics on 1,000-Year Door. But yeah, I'm just glad. I'm always glad to hear from people that that have actually, for one, played Color Splash. Like, even you, as someone that likes the newer Paper Mario games, you still haven't actually played Color Splash.
It's the one that got away. Yeah.
And yeah, I love it. I think I said it last week. It's like my third favorite Paper Mario game. Now, it's I haven't played it since it came out, but my memories are that it's excellent, especially if you like the sticker star style of gameplay. It's like a more refined sticker star style of game. But yeah, like we said already, thank you, Presto, for sending that in. And yeah, I enjoyed hearing your experience with Paper Mario as a series. I can't imagine, you being younger than us. It must be very interesting to have played Thousand Year Door for the first time in 2020 after nearly 20 years of like fan build up and hype and whatever. Also, summer 2020 was a fantastic time to be a Paper Mario fan already, because that was also when Origami King came out, and also Bug Fables came out on Switch.
Yeah,
summer 2020.
Yeah. That was very early in All N's life. I think we started All N in like late May, early June of 2020, and I think the following week was when they announced Origami King, and that was the first review we did on All N. Bug Fables was our indie showcase on episode like 8 or something like that. So yeah, it was a really good time to be a Paper Mario fan. And I wanted to also, if I could glaze Presto a little bit more.
Yeah, please.
Presto is really good about, because he is, he's young, but he's really like open and good about going back and actually playing like old Nintendo games in a way that I think a lot of kids his age are unwilling to. And I respect that about Presto, and he's also not afraid to be like, yeah, I played Ocarina of Time and I kind of hated it.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, shout outs to Presto for just being like honest with his thoughts and being willing to go back and evaluate that stuff.
Especially because he's right, at least about Ocarina of Time. I'm mostly joking, but yeah, whenever I hear people talk about like being worried about like the future generations in terms of like their willingness to engage with like art and movies and blah blah blah, like yeah, to a certain degree, but at the same time, like when I was a teenager, like I was also like the weird kid that was playing NES games in 2006, right? Like there will always be kids like that are wanting, they find a hobby they really like, and then they start deep diving in even earlier than most other people. So that's really cool. I really appreciate that about Presto. This might sound hyperbolic. I hope you don't take it to be insincere because of it, but like, yeah, hearing stuff like that gives me like faith and hope in like people younger than me, not just that, but it is nice to hear that spirit of like exploration and wanting to broaden your horizons and live the classics, live them in the modern day. Yeah, that's awesome, and keep doing that, please.
Yeah, keep being you, Presto. Keep doing that thing.
And with that, I think we're gonna take our first well-deserved break of the episode. We're
It's been a hell of an episode already.
We're gonna play Rogue Port, the main Rogue Port theme, and again we're going to play the GameCube version, the GameCube original, followed by the Switch version. I imagine you will be able to quickly tell the difference with all of these songs. But yeah, that is Rogue Port, and we will be right back. Okay, and that was Rogueport. And I gotta say, out of all the songs that we have picked to play on this episode, the new Switch version, that is definitely the weakest of them all.
Agreed.
Despite how strong like the actual original song is. Yeah, I don't know. Like, what overall thoughts did you have on Rogueport as both the GameCube and the Switch version?
Yeah, I mean, this is just a really, I think, strong and present example of kind of what we were talking about, where, like, you know, the original GameCube version really kind of nails the tone of Rogueport because it feels grandiose and it feels very Mario. It's got that Mario tone, as Presto says. But it's got like little tiny twinges in it. Like it's got that little mouth harp in there. I love the mouth harp. Anytime somebody uses a mouth harp, which is that kind of twangy, like swampy sounding instrument, like a wham, wham, you know, anytime you work that in, that always makes me happy. And it makes it feel just like a little dirty, you know? Like it makes it feel like there's a little bit of grime to the city. There's a little bit of that kind of like, yeah, I mean, it feels like the kind of place where, you know, two Pianta mobsters are beating up a dude in the background and, you know, you're going to get robbed at any moment, but it still kind of feels grandiose and you're like setting off on an adventure. It really strikes an interesting balance there. And then when you, like the Switch version, I mentioned this earlier, but it just has this overproduced, like shimmery, like way too, like a distracting level of like production and layering. Like the drums are way punchier. Like it's like if you listen to the drums, it's almost distracting to me listening to this song on its own. The drums sound like they were ripped from like a metal song or something. Like they're so in your face. And I do understand, like, you know, and again we mentioned this in the All In review, but like the Origami Kingification of this game, both visually and with its soundtrack, makes some sense. I understand wanting to sort of like define a visual and oral identity for what Paper Mario means in the modern age. That all makes sense to me, but it is, you know, like it does end up feeling way too clean. Like it reminds me, they recently, at the time we're recording this, there was Summer Game Fest and all of the various presentations and stuff. And at the Xbox show, they showed the Metal Gear Solid Delta MGS3 remake, essentially, right? And I think on the surface of it, you look at that, you say, oh my god, like Metal Gear Solid 3 is back and blah, blah, blah. But like it completely removed that kind of sepia tone that the original game had. And like what people don't understand about remakes is like kind of preserving the quality of what made it special. Like, hey, did you ever stop to think that they worked within those limitations and those were actually artistic strokes and things that they did on purpose to establish a sense of tone? Like, you know, people look at Metal Gear Solid 3 and be like, that game looks like it's covered in piss the entire time or whatever, you know? And to me, I'm like, you know, Kojima was going for that Cold War cinema flavor with that game. And so the whole game does have that kind of yellow sepia tone over it and like heavy bloom and stuff, but it's there intentionally. And so when you look at the remake and all of that stuff is removed and it just looks so, you know, clean, but not in a good way. That's kind of how I feel about the soundtrack in a lot of ways with this, but especially with Rogueport, where it's like you've removed all of the grime that I like, you know? So, yeah.
It's funny that you use grime because, yeah, in my notes, multiple times I have written down like the word grime or grimy or whatever. For this specific song, I wrote that the vibe in the remake just feels more playful and just way less grimy than the original. It just feels like when I listen to the original, it makes me think of like a Little Rascals like song or something. It makes me think of like kids are getting up to something. Like this place is called Rogueport. It's like a thieves place, a crime place, but like, you know, it's still kid friendly for the most part. So it's not like super serious things happening. So yeah, I don't know. It's like getting up to something. I love games or just media in general where like it feels like you're getting up to something. But yeah, the remade song of this, it just like, I don't know, those triumphant horns, like on their own, like there's nothing wrong with them. But like superimposed over Thousand Year Door, it feels like a tonal mismatch to me. It feels like triumphant, and like that's not the feeling that I get or want to get from Rogueport. It just doesn't really make sense. Maybe if like maybe there'd be an argument if this is like the post game version of Rogueport. Maybe then I could see that being a thing and that being cool. But yeah, this is, like I said, this is easily the weakest of like all the new songs to me, I think, in the entire game. And I want to emphasize that like you can tell a lot of love and hard work went into this new soundtrack. So it's not like I'm trying to come down on it or whatever. It's not like I think this song is like horrible or whatever, but I do think it loses something from the original that a lot of the new other remade songs don't inherently.
Right.
There's even like there's new versions of Rogueport, or rather new rearrangements of Rogueport that weren't in the original. Like there's a shop version of the Rogueport theme that I think is actually awesome. It reminds me of like the Ocarina of Time shop theme.
Right.
It's great. It's fantastic. I just wish that like the main Rogueport theme wasn't as I don't know, I almost find it like grating at times. It's not what I wanted to hear. And yeah, it when they were first like releasing new footage of this and we were hearing the new Rogueport theme, I'm like, oh
yeah, I didn't like it then either.
Yeah, it kind of killed my hype a little bit at the time. I mean, my hype was at a pretty consistent level, I feel like, for this remake the whole time, but like that was the first time I'm like, ooh, like I don't care about the 30 frames or whatever, but I don't know about this Rogueport theme. But again, I do want to emphasize that I think overall the new soundtrack is at worst good. It's just this song is like a specific kind of sore sticking spot for me.
Right.
I mostly wanted to play with the new soundtrack for the purpose of this podcast. But after 2 chapters, I'm like, I'm putting the nostalgia badge on whenever I'm in Rogueport. Like, it's just not.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because something I do want to, like, yeah, we are aware that there's the nostalgia badge, and it's great that they have that in there, which is this, free cost 0 BP badge that you can turn. It looks like a GameCube. It's very cute. And you can turn it on whenever you want, and you can hear the old soundtrack. Yes, of course, that is a great inclusion, and I really enjoyed flipping back and forth between both of them. I love that they have that in there. But y'all, like, look, that the purpose of this episode is to compare and contrast. So,
right.
Yeah, we're aware that's in there. Like, we're not stupid.
Right.
And I played with that a lot, but yeah, and of course it's great that they give you the option. So anytime that we're like critiquing the new stuff, like, yeah, of course we're aware that we didn't have to engage with it if we didn't want to. That's just the point of what we're doing here today.
Right. And again, I just want to reemphasize again that overall I quite enjoyed the new soundtrack, and regardless of my subjective feelings on it, there was clearly a lot of love and work put into it. So it's not me trying to come down on it. It's the same main composer as Origami King, and I love the Origami King soundtrack. I just, my feelings is that, he was trying to put that Origami King flavor in here where it didn't quite fit, and it's just like shoved in there, and there's stuff sticking out where it shouldn't be, and yeah, it's fine. Because again, there are some really damn good remixes in the soundtrack, but we will get to that. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to the Rogueport theme before we move on?
No, not particularly about that. I do just want to. I don't know where else I would really draw this comparison either. But I just wanted to quickly say too that a game that I think really successfully managed the balance of this is actually the Mario RPG remake that we got last year, where the new arrangements for that really felt like they kind of breathed new life into the songs. And I don't know if that is by virtue of this being like a Super Nintendo game that inherently, didn't have the capabilities or the depth to kind of realize the vision in the first place, whereas this is a GameCube game that can get you, like, the gap is a lot, smaller there. I don't know if that's what it was, but like, for me, the Mario RPG remake actually did a great job of sort of, like, capturing the tone, but still making it feel very fresh and very new at the same time. It's really good stuff. Like, they did a really great job with that, and So, you know, I guess I say that just to say that, like, my heart is not closed off to rearrangements at all. Like, I'm all for it. And I do think that this is mostly, you know, good. It's just, I don't think that barely any of the new tracks were actually, like, improvements upon the original work. Whereas with Mario RPG's remake, I felt like the vast majority of it, I actually did prefer the rearrangement. So I just wanted to bring that up too.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair. Also gives me an excuse to add Mario RPG remake music beneath us talking for a little bit.
Rose Town in there.
Yep, Rose Town was exactly what I was thinking of. That's hands down my favorite sound or song off that soundtrack. I'll also emphasize, my heart is not closed off either. Hell, I'm even like a defender of the Final Fantasy X remade soundtrack. Not all of them hit. In fact, like Besaid, which is maybe my favorite song of the game, I think that one is much worse than the original. But overall, I think it's good to even great. It's just, there are just some that don't hit, and that's fine. And again, it's the same thing here. We're gonna get to some songs that I think are at least as good, if not better, than the originals.
Yes.
But yeah, we got to get through some other stuff first before we get there. I just have some generalities written down about Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. You know, I just kind of like doing this just to give us a framework. I'll also just make a quick note here that this is the episode that by far I have made the least amount of notes for. In fact, after this section and ignoring the YouTube comment oversharing corner, there's basically no notes that I have. So this is going to be a pretty free-form discussion.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see where we end up with that. And like I said, I imagine it's going to be a lot of talking about like Origami King and stuff like that.
That's okay.
Yeah, that is totally fine with me. But anyway, Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. This is the second entry in the Paper Mario series, the direct follow-up to Paper Mario on the Nintendo 64. Again, we will talk about the series in general, I think, a little bit later, but Seth and I are both big Paper Mario 64 fans over here. Thousand-Year Door was released for the GameCube in 2004. It was developed by Intelligent Systems, and if you're not aware, that's the Fire Emblem, Advance Wars, and even the WarioWare people, which is interesting. This was directed by, or rather, I think not all the WarioWares, but I think a decent chunk of them, including like the smooth moves of the world. Thousand-Year Door was directed by Ryota Kawade, and I honestly couldn't find that much information on Ryota Kawade beyond that he was the director on Paper Mario, The Thousand-Year Door, and Super Paper Mario, and doesn't really seem to have been involved with much since then in general, beyond like a special thanks in Sticker Star and a supervisor role in the remaster of Thousand-Year Door that we're talking about right now. I will just say that those first three Paper Mario games, there is a distinct, you can tell that like there was someone, I didn't know before looking this up that those three games had the same director, but you can tell that someone higher up had their hand in all three, so it makes sense then that it was the same director for all three.
Yeah.
The original game, the original Thousand-Year Door, to be specific, game was composed by Yoshito Sekigawa, which they're credited at the time as Yoshito Hirano, and Yuka Tsujiyoko. Both seem to have been in-house composers at Intelligent Systems for decades. Yuka Tsujiyoko has been there since the 90s, which I always get a kick out of just seeing someone's body of work, like from a musician standpoint, like in the game space, like, oh yeah, they've been working at this company for like 30 years now, over 30 years. That's very interesting. And just to see everything that they've worked on. In this case, there's a lot of Fire Emblem, as you could imagine.
Yeah.
I'll also say, while looking this up, because we always got to have Smash Bros. Ultimate representation whenever I can find it, Yoshito Sekigawa made a rearrangement of Aquarius from Castlevania 3 for Smash Bros. Ultimate, which is one of my favorite songs in Castlevania, the series, and also one of my favorite remixes from Smash Bros. Ultimate that will definitely be playing behind us for a little bit here. From what I can tell, Yoshito Sekigawa was also the sound director and composition lead on the Thousand-Year Door remake. Also credited with playing guitars, so I think that's probably why there's like a lot of guitars in both Origami King and this. And yeah, like I said, he was also the sound director and composition lead on Origami King, which again, makes perfect sense. And then also in the credits for the sound for this remaster were Kazuki Konai and Fumihiro Isobe, but I don't know what specifically they did beyond being in the credits in various places in there. The only other note I really have about Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, beyond what we're going to get into, but was that Shigeru Miyamoto was infamously opposed to just making the game in the first place. He didn't really see the point after Paper Mario 64, which, hey, I kind of agree with him. That's the perfect video game, so why even try? But he specifically, they showed him a scene of like 100 or 200 like dry bones or something on screen. He's like, okay, now I see what's going on here. Let's do it. Miyamoto, he loves just like a bunch of little dudes on screen at once.
He was way into that, right? During the GameCube era, like we had like that Super Mario 128 or whatever demo where it was just a bunch of little Marios and then like Pikmin, you know,
right?
Like, just liked a bunch of little dudes on screen.
You know what? I love a lot of little dudes on my screen too. Big Pikmin fan over here. Yeah, no, I think that's interesting because, you know, I think a lot of people, when it comes to the Mario RPGs in general, not just Paper Mario, but also Mario and Luigi, Miyamoto gets like a lot of hate on this front because of like decisions that were made somewhere along the way of like, you know, in Sticker Star, I think there was an interview where whoever directed it, I think this was in an Iwata Asks, specifically said Miyamoto forbade them from like making any special toads. Does that make sense? Like all the toads had to be like stock toads. Like they could talk and say different things, but they couldn't look different, and that upset a lot of people at the time. I remember. You can make it, I mean, do I think that's a little bit too much like overreach on Miyamoto's part? Like, yeah, a little, but it's not that big of a deal. I don't think that was the problem with Sticker Star that most people had anyway. You still got plenty of personality out of the stock toads in all the Paper Mario games that had them. But that said, what do we think about like this line of thinking now in terms of like Miyamoto? I think the idea was, with not wanting Thousand Year Door to be made, was that he didn't see the reason in just making another Paper Mario game unless there was a specific like gimmick, or again, gimmick I use it has a negative connotation. I don't mean it in a negative way, but just anything to like set it apart from the previous game. Like he didn't want to just make a better one of those. And at the time, you know, I was one of the people that was like, no, just give me a million Paper Mario games every like 3 years. Give me a new traditional Paper Mario game. As I've gotten older, I actually agree with Miyamoto's line of thinking, but I don't know. Well, I can take a guess where your line of thinking is with that too.
Well, yeah, I mean, like the thing about it is, you know, I mean, if they didn't continue with the series, we wouldn't have Origami King and Color Splash and all these games that we love, of course, but if I sort of divorce myself from that kind of like alternate timeline school of thought, I mean, yeah, I agree with them. I mean, I think that, you know, something that when you're, because back then he was not like, now he's like creative fellow or whatever the hell his title is. And he's just kind of like consulting on like the Mario movie. And, but, you know, back then he was in that producer sort of role where like a lot of the first party Nintendo stuff went through him directly, and he had his hands in all of that stuff, and like he had kind of final say on a lot of those things. And when you're in a leadership position like that, you do kind of have to be the bad guy sometimes, if it means that it is maintaining what you think the mission statement of the thing should be, which is like, I don't want to do this for no reason, you know, because like Nintendo, yeah, of course they could have just, you know, churned out a million Paper Mario games exactly the same way as they did with Paper Mario 64. They could have done that for forever, and that's what people today say they want, right? And but there is merit to like, no, like if we're gonna keep doing this, like it should be considerably different, for better or for worse. And I do respect, I'm sure that was not a popular opinion for him to have, you know, but I think at a certain point, as much hate as Miyamoto gets for some of those decisions, and regardless if you agree or disagree, he was like, yo, like the buck stops with me. And like I do, you know, like I do have to put my foot down on this one way or another. And yeah, I don't know. I kind of respect it. And while I'm glad ultimately that Paper Mario has kind of become this weird experimental like adventure game series that it is today, I do respect that line of thinking, and I kind of agree.
Well, what I always point to is that like you don't even need to imagine an alternate reality of like where we just kept getting the same format of Paper Mario games, because you know the sister series to Paper Mario is the Mario and Luigi games, and we got 5 of those things, not counting the remakes, and they basically all turned into the same thing, especially after Bowser's Inside Story. It just became like worse versions of Bowser's Inside Story.
So
and
true.
And the quality dipped. Or not even necessarily the quality, you know, but it just, they just didn't change enough.
It did get stale.
Yeah,
like
it got
did
stale.
get stale. Yes.
And again, I say that as someone who, like, at one point I considered Bowser's Inside Story like my favorite Mario RPG that wasn't Paper Mario 64. I've cooled on it since then. I think part of that is also just because, yeah, I played all the Mario and Luigi games. Also, do you know anyone that's played all the Mario and Luigi games, like, besides me and maybe yourself? Because I don't.
Yeah. No, yeah, I don't think so. I've played, well, I actually didn't play Paper Jam. But I've played all the other ones. And yeah, there are a lot of people who I feel like Mario and Luigi wasn't like that big of a deal. I feel like I don't even hear that many people talk about it anymore in general, despite the fact that the vocal minority is very like, bring back Mario and Luigi, and why is Alpha Dream not here anymore, and all this stuff, you know?
Yeah, and you know, I will say I think Paper Jam was actually pretty good for what it was. I definitely liked it more than Dream Team. But yeah, like we can see that reality where if Paper Mario had just kept going the way it did, and probably what would have happened there.
Such
so,
a
like,
good point. Yeah.
I really love, and again, we'll get into it after the break probably, but yeah, I love basically all the Paper Mario games, even Sticker Star, which up to last week I said I hated, and I played a few hours of it last week. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, this is still probably the worst Paper Mario game, but this is still pretty all right for what it is. But that said, let's go on a break, and we'll come back, and we'll kind of be in the wild blue yonder at that point, because there are no notes past this point beyond songs. So let's go on a break, listen to Rogueport Sewers Sublevel 1, and we'll be right back. And that was Rogueport Sewers Sublevel 1, or just Rogueport Sewers, I feel like is what we're all calling it colloquially.
Yeah,
This is the song from Thousand Year Door, right? Like, I feel like
I agree.
this is like what everyone thinks about when they think of the Thousand Year Door soundtrack. It's funny, my wife hums this all the time, but I don't think she realized it was from Thousand Year Door, because then when we were when the remake came out and we were playing it, she's like, "Oh, okay, that's what
It's
this is
that
from." Yeah, what can I say beyond, like, yeah, this is just like the perfect little tune for exploring like just mysterious like subterranean ruins. Like I said before, you know, we talked a lot of guff about Rogueport, the main Rogueport remade song, but like, while I don't think this remade version is better, like, it's certainly not bad. Like, it's kind of off to the side. It's just as good as in its own way, is what I would say about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked on this show before about how much I like sort of, twinkly beeps and boops that go between both channels, and like this song's got plenty of that. But I love it when underground themes in Mario games, like when they really feel like you're going into another dimension or something. Like, even in the original Mario, that original underground, that duna duna duna, I mean, that sounds so different from what's happening on the surface. And I always love that. And so I love kind of going into the sewers for the first time, and you're just kind of struck and be like, whoa, like this is like this vibe is so singular here in the sewers. And the Switch version, yeah, I agree, it's good. They did add like some sitar to it that, like, it sounds cool. I don't know if it fits tonally all that well with like what, I don't know if it's necessary. Like, it just feels a little like, like it gives it a little bit of Eastern flavor, and I'm not opposed to that, but I don't know that I super feel like it fits either.
Sure.
That said, it does also have like this nice, like there's like a breakdown that has a really like chunky like bass line that they added to it that I do appreciate. So this is one of the tracks. This has long been my favorite track on the entire soundtrack anyways. But this is one of those where I'm like, okay, like this is pretty, I don't know that I like it better, but I do like this kind of in the same respect as the original.
Yeah, I feel, again, I always I keep in my head calling the new soundtrack more playful than the original. Like, it just more, or like more innocent, kind of. I don't know. There's just something almost like naive sounding about it, but like it kind of works for me here in a way that it doesn't with every song. I do like, I think it was around like 39 seconds. There's like a little extra percussion that comes in. It's not like overpowering or anything, but it just, I don't know. I really quite liked it here. Yeah, overall, it's just like a little more full sounding than the original, but it's not overbearingly so, which is where I think even a lot of the songs that I like on the remade soundtrack can still kind of sound overbearing at times, and then this one does not fall into that trap. So I think overall pretty dang good, especially because like this is the one, like you don't want to mess this one up, right?
Right. Yeah, totally. It's good. I like it. And it, because Rogueport and Rogueport Sewers, you're going to spend so much of your time there, like those two themes, like it's interesting how, you would think that coming into this, those are the two themes you really want to spend a lot of time on. And in one of them, it feels like they kind of took a very measured hand. And in the other one, it's like, okay, you guys actually went a little too far.
Right.
And yeah, so that's interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. I was genuinely dreading this one after hearing Rogueport. So yeah, it was nice. It was a pleasant little, like, okay, like, yeah, they didn't screw this one up too bad, basically. And again, I don't want to talk too much guff, because again, this is the same composer that did Origami King, which I think is one of the best Nintendo soundtracks ever made at this point.
I agree.
So it's not like I know the dude is talented. He also worked on the original, so it's not his fault or anything. I just think it was kind of a hard task, and they weren't always able to stick the landing completely gracefully. But for the most part, maybe just a little stumble, maybe just a little knee wobble on the landing there. Speaking of some knee wobbles on the landing, What were your thoughts overall on playing Thousand Year Door on Switch?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't love it. I was
Yeah, I
kind
know.
of, it was, to be honest, and we get into this, we talked about it for like 2.5 hours on All In last week, so you'll probably hear me repeat some of the things that I said there, but I mean, like, I came into this kind of with the thought, like, I've never liked this game as much as a lot of other people seem to, and I do think that a lot of people have a lot of like nostalgia with this game, and this game means something to them, and I do too. Like, I was actually surprised at how nostalgic I did get on this replay. Like, oh, I actually have a little bit more Thousand Year Door nostalgia than maybe I gave myself credit for coming in. But I came into this kind of hoping that my opinion would be changed. Okay, like they're eliminating some of the backtracking stuff, which they did as much as they could, I guess. They probably could have done a little more, but that's whatever. And I was kind of hoping that this would be my moment of like, finally, I love this as much as everybody else does. It didn't wind up that way, to the point where like I was pretty, by the time I was done with it, I was like pretty done with it. I was pretty like over it. And like it's all this stuff. Like the battle system, I think, is a straight downgrade from 64 for me. The amount of like walking and plotting and the oppressive amount of dialogue, like it, I do like the game, and so much of the heavy lifting of Paper Mario is like the vibe and the world building and the tone. And I do think that the Thousand Year Door, and I think a large part of why a lot of people love it so much, is that I do think that Thousand Year Door has got the best vibes of like really, it's some of the best vibes in Nintendo history in terms of like the theming of things and like the characters and all of that is all great. The fluff is incredible in this game. It's just when you start to think about it like critically a little bit, when you start to remove some of that stuff and you start to when you start to like think about what you're actually doing, for me, I was like, what I'm actually doing kind of sucks. And it's funny because like you're talking about the Origami King, which I think the Origami King also does a really good job of vibes. Like the Origami King has the coffee shops that you can stop into, and like the kind of like overworld exploration, the cool set pieces and the cool autumn areas and the ninja theme park and stuff, and like really cool vibes to that game too. But it also is always changing up kind of what you're actually doing, and it's always like, it's fun to explore that world. Like, you want to spend time in that world, whereas with this, I kind of just wanted to like get it over with, personally.
Yeah, sure. So I will say, and again, we have no notes going forward, so this is going to be maybe disjointed, but I'm kind of into that anyway, so we can just talk about whatever we want when it comes to Paper Mario. I agree with you. I think Origami King is the vastly superior game. I mean, I guess that's not fair because I love both of these games. Again, I love like basically all the Paper Mario games. But I have always considered Thousand Year Door pretty low on my Paper Mario totem pole. In fact, it's only above Sticker Star, basically. That said, yeah, I didn't come down on this Switch version, this replay of it, as hard as you did, because I also didn't really want it to end, but maybe that's just because like I just love, like, I don't know, seeing the game running on my Switch. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, just seeing it in my hands, I'm like, oh yeah, it's nice to be able to play like a classic GameCube game in my hands. I know that's not new. I know they've remade, not just Nintendo, but other developers have remade plenty of GameCube era games on the Switch, but like, it's always just nice and nostalgic and whatever when that happens. And despite whatever issues I have with Thousand Year Door, it is just nice to have it again. Like, I left my GameCube copy in America. It wouldn't work over here with region locking stuff anyway. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to bring over my entire GameCube collection. The last time I played Thousand Year Door before this replay was actually on Dolphin a few years ago. And again, apologies if you listen to All In and you hear all of this multiple times. But yeah, I did not like that Dolphin replay as much as I was expecting to. I think part of that though was that I was a lot dumber then than I am now in a lot of ways, but also specifically with like making builds in games. Like I didn't, even though like I'm talking about myself from 5 years ago as if I was a teenager. Like no, I was still in like my late 20s, but like I didn't really understand the idea or concept of like making builds. I'm just like, well, I'm just gonna increase Mario's HP a lot. Like we're just gonna do that and put the power swing or the power hammer on him and the power jump, and that's it. They'll carry us through the whole game. And it's like, yeah, it can, but it's not that interesting. I did quite enjoy in this replay, but again, this isn't new. But yeah, making builds, and this is my first time playing through the Thousand Year Door, actually doing interesting stuff or semi-interesting stuff. You know, I will say, not to, I'm like interrupting myself, but Paper Mario 64, regardless of anything else that I like more about it, I feel like even the build system, the builds you're able to make in Paper Mario 64 are way more interesting than Thousand Year Door.
Far more. Yeah.
Like, when you look up what people are saying about the builds they're doing in Thousand Year Door, even the people that are gung-ho about Thousand Year Door are like, yeah, the only real interesting build is Danger Mario, where like Mario's constantly low on health and he does a ton of damage and whatever. And it's just like, yeah, I don't really want to play like that though. Like, it's cool that you do a lot of damage, but I want to like try other stuff. I want to emphasize my party members and like try and do stuff with like the special abilities and whatever. Yeah, the last time I played Paper Mario 64, I made Mario into like a battle mage and emphasized my special abilities, which I had never really done before. So like that was cool. Whereas in Thousand Year Door, I would actively not want to play that way because of how long all the special moves take in this compared to Paper Mario 64. There's just a lot of fluff in Thousand Year Door that I didn't really fully realize was there until playing it now in a post like Bug Fables world, in a post Origami King world, in a post I've replayed Paper Mario 64 like 3 more times since the last time I've played Thousand Year Door. And yeah, that's not a coincidence. I like Paper Mario 64 more, even beyond my bias towards it, which is that Paper Mario 64 is like the game that made me interested in games on a higher level. Like, I played that game when it came out when I was in 5th grade. I remember one of my best friends at the time rented it, and I went over to his house, and he's a big he even back then he was wanting to be an actor, and specifically with like stage plays and stuff. So he wanted us to play Paper Mario 64, but we're each going to take parts of different character and give them different voices and read them out loud to each other. Like, that was like our way to co-op play the game, kind of.
Yeah.
And that's a memory that's like really ingrained in me of like just playing through the first couple chapters of the original Paper Mario with one of my best friends and making silly voices for each other as we're playing the game or whatever. So again, I agree with whatever any listener is thinking, that like, yeah, you're just biased. And that's true to a certain degree, but I don't think it's just nostalgia and just bias. There are objective things with Thousand Year Door that just aren't as good. Sorry, I've been rambling for a while. I know you have plenty other things that you think are objectively not as good in Thousand Year Door either.
Well, no, I mean, like, I want to say too that like Paper Mario 64 for me, because coming into this replay of Thousand Year Door, I had replayed 64 and Super Paper Mario, and Paper Mario is, I don't even know if I've had the opportunity to, this, and listeners of All In might even know this, but I don't think I've had an opportunity to talk about this on Bit Harmony. There was a extended period of my life where I was deep into the Mario fanfiction community. And I wrote a lot of like Mario fanfiction and stuff, and it was because of Paper Mario. Specifically Paper Mario 64, like when that game came out, the way that game like fleshed out the world, like all of a sudden I had that world mapped out in my head. I knew where Toad Town was, and all of a sudden I started writing about the Forbidden Forest and stuff, and and like knowing where like these things kind of they had taken a certain purchase in my mind, and I don't know, like that was really kind of important to me in kind of fleshing out the world of Mario in both like the world building of it, but also the characters of it. It's something that I've always wanted from Mario ever since I was a little kid, playing like Super Mario Brothers 3 and being like, oh my god, like that enemy is so cool, like what's his name, you know, and like what's going on, like what's this character's story, and they never super gave you that, and now in Paper Mario they are, right? And so it's everything I wanted out of Paper Mario. I always wanted more fat to chew on from Mario, and Paper Mario gave that to me, and so it was really a pretty formative and important game, and that was the game that really kind of made my imagination run wild. So it was always special to me from that standpoint, but I hadn't replayed it in so long. And then like when Super Paper Mario came out, all bets were off. Like that game basically is fan fiction.
We have to talk extensively about Super Paper Mario because the places that story goes, and I haven't played it since it was new, so it's been 15 years for me or whatever, and there's still story moments in my head that are just like stuck there from like a Mario lore perspective or whatever. Maybe lore isn't the right word, but there's so much cool stuff going on. I would even say in all three of the first three Paper Mario games. But yeah, Super in particular is like the standout one from that perspective.
Yeah, like, you know, like it has alternate realities and it has a lot of darkness. Like they go to hell at one point essentially, and you know, that's like a fairly famous moment. It's also a really sweet love story, and it has like the characters in that game have, you know, fairly deep backstories to them and actual arcs. And it also, Super Paper Mario, the thing that struck me the most on this replay that I don't think I quite appreciated back when the game first came out is just the way that it pokes fun at like Nintendo fans and Mario fans and RPG fans. There's that character, his name might be like Franklin or something, that like gecko iguana character who's like, you know, a big creep, like, you know, obsessed with Peach or whatever, and he's like a total like basement dwelling, you know, forum guy, and it's like very clearly like a takedown of, you know, Nintendo fans essentially. And you know, that's kind of like funny, and it's the kind of thing that Nintendo would not put in their games today. Like there's a bite to it that like is just not present even in, as much as I love Origami King. Like Origami King doesn't have like anything to really say commentatively about, like it's not trying to break the fourth wall or anything like that. And Super Paper Mario has quite a lot to say about that. And you could kind of tell and I brought this up too, playing the Thousand Year Door, you could kind of tell that they were wanting to go that way. Like they were kind of tiptoeing in that Super Paper Mario direction. But like they weren't kind of given, I think, the free reign to go fully like that way. And then you get to Super Paper Mario, it's like, yo, this has got like Kingdom Hearts energy to it.
Yeah,
like
there's even like you're collecting hearts in that one, aren't you? Like kind of,
yeah, Chaos Hearts.
Yeah, Chaos Hearts. Yeah, I think you said it on the All In podcast. Again, we've talked so much about that. You know, I will say real quick, I'm very grateful and thankful that like whenever I play or replay a game that I really love, like that's all I want to talk about, you know. But I often, besides my poor wife, I don't have an outlet to be like, I can't believe they did this, and this, or like the lore implications or what they changed here or whatever. I don't often have an outlet for that. So the fact that like we're gonna have like 7 hours total of us talking about Paper Mario in like the span of a week, I'm grateful for that.
I am too.
But yeah, I think you brought it up last week that Thousand Year Door now so more than ever feels like a weird stopgap between the original Paper Mario and Super Paper Mario. Like it's kind of this weird half step. And again, I want to emphasize, I love Thousand Year Door. I had a blast replaying it. I liked it more than I did on my last replay, so it's good. For me, I would even say it is great. But yeah, there are a lot of weird little things with it that like I didn't notice beforehand. And it's not even just like the story structure and whatever either, because yeah, the original Paper Mario is more traditional, like fantasy kind of storytelling, and then Super Paper Mario is like whatever that is. I don't know. I don't know how to just briefly just sum up Super Paper Mario's storytelling. And yeah, Thousand Year Door just feels like a weird half step. But then I even think about, like, there's so much left to right in Thousand Year Door, and I mean that literally. Like, basically every area you're just going left to right to left to right. Like, there's no variation there, and it makes sense in Super Paper Mario because you're literally in a 2D world that you can flip into 3D. But it's weird that Thousand Year Door feels like there's less level design going on than in the original Paper Mario on 64. It feels like less of a world and more like, you know, I hate when people talk about like Final Fantasy 13 is like a hallway walking simulator, but that's kind of what Thousand Year Door feels like a lot of the time. Is just quite literally in Chapter 3, where you're just walking back and forth in a hallway in the back of an arena. It's weird. There's so many weird things about it that, like, I wonder, you know, I would love to hear from, like, I don't know, people that, like, have always loved Thousand Year Door from the get-go and that still love it now, like, what they have to say about, like, why they think Thousand Year Door is the best in the series. Because that is the prevailing theme, like, in basically the entire Nintendo fandom, is that Thousand Year Door is the best in the series, hands down, and it's not even a conversation to be had. Whereas, like, me, I'm like, it's near the bottom for me. So I genuinely don't understand what other people see in it that I don't, other than, like, they're just more susceptible to very specific things Thousand Year Door is doing.
Right. Well, and it's interesting too, right? Because Thousand Year Door has a little bit of that fourth wall breaky nature that we would see them go kind of full bore into with Super Paper Mario. But the thing that is interesting that I don't feel like I hear enough people talk about with Super Paper Mario in general, is that the way that Paper Mario, you know, both 64 and the Thousand Year Door kind of play with this, like, paper aesthetic and realizing the world through paper and kind of breaking, you know, the boundaries of the world through paper and whatever. Super Paper Mario does that with the medium of video games. Like, Super Paper Mario is aware that it is in a video game world, like, specifically. And Super Paper Mario is like, let's break the bounds of the set dressing by acknowledging that we're in a video game, even though that is, like, breaking the fourth wall a little bit. We know that we're in the video game world, so we can shift the perspective and play with it. And, like, I mean, you know, I don't know how dumb it is to worry about spoilers for Super Paper Mario, but like, the moment when the Sammer's Kingdom is, like, deleted by Dimencio and the Void, essentially, like, that's a stark moment, dude, that, like, only really exists, like, essentially the threat that is happening at, like, the end of the Thousand Year Door of, like, oh, this might happen, that does happen in Super Paper Mario. And, like, it's kind of heart-wrenching and, like, crazy what they're able to achieve there. Like, they gave themselves permission to kind of go there with Super Paper Mario, and you know, like, let alone the stuff that's happening with the characters and, like, the way that the characters kind of come back. And it isn't just lip service, like in the Thousand Year Door and even 64 to some extent, as you know, and I like the characters of both of those games. They'll bring up characters and bring them back just to kind of be like, remember me? Like, I'm still here, you know, and that was cool. Like, the characters go on arcs. Like, when they introduce a character in Super Paper Mario, like, oh, Chunks, you know, which is, like, supposed to be just, like, this stupid kind of Scottish stereotype, like, brute character. Like, no, he goes on an arc, dude. Like, he has, like, his own character growth and arc to him. And, you know, I think a lot of people, they dog on some, like, on these games for the wrong reasons. They dog on Origami King because they're so butthurt about the new, you know, the new battle system or whatever. And, like, yeah, like, the new battle system didn't land for me 100% of the time either, but can we not acknowledge that everything else about that game is a 10 out of 10? Yeah. You know? And then, like, sorry, go ahead.
No, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Well, and I, you know, just to finish that line of thinking, people dog on Super Paper Mario because it isn't, you know, it isn't leaning into the kind of, like, Mario universe characters as much as it is the characters of, like, flip side and this kind of more original, you know, kind of universe versus like the Mushroom Kingdom. And I'm with you, like I can, you know, I do miss some of that flavor. However, everything else about that game is like a 10 out of 10 for what it is. So like, why are we getting so hung up on these little things about this series that is otherwise doing everything else so well, you know?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot, especially since beating the Thousand Year Door remake and starting up Origami King a few days ago. I genuinely don't know what it is that people get so worked up about with Origami King and the battle system, because honestly, I'm having a lot of fun with the battle system in Origami King with and by that I mean moving the pieces around. Like I'm actually going out of my way to try and solve those puzzles now, and sometimes I don't fully succeed, other times I do. Some, you know, and then there are times like I was playing late at night last night. I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna pay the toads to do this for me. It's cool that that's an option. I think that's actually kind of forward thinking, that like, yeah, hey, if you're not in the mood, you can basically just fast forward this battle.
I would have done that a lot in Thousand Year Door,
yes,
by the way.
That's exactly what I was about to say. And again, I wish I'd played Color Splash recently, because again, I feel like I'm the world's biggest Color Splash fan, but I don't feel like hooking up my wife's Wii U and all this stuff going on. But
sure,
I did play a little bit of Sticker Star last week, and yeah, I'm not compelled enough to like finish it. There's too much other stuff going on, but like a lot of it was just like clearly they were just looking at how can we speed up these battles. And they did a great job. I like the battles in Sticker Star. In Sticker Star and Color Splash, both, they kind of bring back that order of operations feel from the original Paper Mario that I crave so much, and that I feel like Thousand Year Door kind of diminished. And so again, then you have Super, which like completely sidestepped all of that, and it is a real-time combat thing. And again, do I think the combat in Super Paper Mario is as engaging as 64 or even Thousand Year Door? Like, not really, but that's not the point. Like,
it's not the point at all. Yeah.
And same thing with Origami King. Like, do I think Origami King would be an even better game if it had a battle system that was like much more like Thousand Year Door or 64? Probably, but I don't think it would be as significant an upgrade as people make it out to be.
Right.
I would go so far as to say at this point on this Origami King replay, again, I'm early in the replay, but I have beaten the game all the way through when it came out. This is like a top like 3 or 4 Switch game for me. Like it is so good. The dialogue is so charming. Olivia is the best like partner. I'd say Olivia is like the best character in the entire series for me. She's just so cute and innocent, but like again, actually has an arc. And like learns about like death. Like, yeah, there's an actual like conversation and like the addressing of like the death of a friend in this game that like when I played it back then I did not see coming at all. And also that wouldn't work if Bobby the Babam was a permanent party member in the way that your party members are in the first 2 Paper Mario games. It just doesn't work. You need to have that like his again, spoilers I guess, but his death, it wouldn't work if he was like a full-time party member, or rather his arc wouldn't be as satisfying if he was a party member that had to stick around for the entire game, you know? I remember playing Origami King for the first time, and then his death happens, and I kept expecting it to turn into a joke of like he just comes back because he's a Babam and they all blow up, but then they're fine. But no, they do not go that route. It's genuinely like touching and beautiful and shocking, and yeah, I don't know.
It's a lot, dude.
Yeah.
And you know what too? Like a lot of people complained and whined before the game came out. I was like, really? Like our Babam party member is just a Babam? Like it's not like bring back Bobbery. And I mean, look, Bobbery's great. Don't get me wrong.
Bobbery is sick. Yeah.
He's awesome. Don't get me wrong. But like you know, we have to stop having these surface level reads and pretending like the developers didn't know what they were doing, because that's absolutely intentional.
Right.
Like Bobby is faceless Babam looking for a fuse to, you know, to sacrifice himself essentially. on purpose. The entire theme of that game, in a lot of ways, is what it's like to be a sort of faceless soldier in a war. That theme comes up again and again and again. And like, it's really interesting because what Origami King does is it takes these little coffee shops, which are on the surface level read of that is, oh, this is just like a fun little respite to get a cute little bit of dialogue and character moment and stuff like that. But what it actually is like neutral ground for like these enemies in Bowser's army to be like, yo, this sucks. Like, this is like there are actual like anxieties that come from being a foot soldier in a massive army that is expendable, you know? And that is a genuinely really interesting and I think important and impactful message, you know? And I think that's really interesting, and I think that gets really undersold when people, you know, kind of consider Origami King and the message that it's trying to convey. And Bobby is just the, you know, the crescendoing moment of that.
Right. It's funny, I just did the first coffee shop in Origami King earlier, and I took a screenshot of this when you're talking to the Koopa bartender. He says, Goombas and Shy Guys, Mario and Minions, we're all pressed from the same pulp. Drink your coffee.
Like, dude.
Yeah.
You know, like, what a line that is. Like, you know... And we're getting hung up on the puzzle battle system? Like, shut up.
Yeah,
You know?
and I do have a lot I want to say about it. Maybe we should take a break real quick.
Okay.
Let's go with Twilight Town for this one. That was your like must-have pick for this episode. So
yeah, and we should make space to talk about Vivian as well.
Yes,
So,
Vivian is definitely the best. Her and Bobbery are by far the best characters in Thousand Year Door. So we'll take a break and we'll get back to ranting, and then in the meantime, here's Twilight Town from Thousand Year Door. And that was Twilight Town. I'll be honest, I was kind of surprised that this was like your must-have for this, or one of your must-haves for this.
Okay.
for whatever reason, this song just never really stuck out that much to me, which is weird because listening to it like on its own and even on this replay, I'm like, oh yeah, this is really good. Maybe it's just because of like, I don't know, it is very Tim Burton-y, but obviously that's on purpose. But yeah, I don't know, is this like your favorite song or like top whatever songs from this game?
Well, the reason I wanted to stop and talk about this track in particular, it's one of the only tracks where I actually prefer the Switch version.
I do too.
And it's because, you know, I agree with you. Like in the original, it wasn't nearly as stand out to me back when I first played the original. I didn't like when I think back on this game, I'm not like, oh yeah, the Twilight Town music, you know? And it you know, the original has those good spooky vibes, the warbly like theremin sounds and the shrill like synth chords of it, but it didn't really stand out to me. The Switch version, when I got to Twilight Town for the first time, like I was kind of halted in my tracks a little bit. I was like, whoa, like it has little tiny tweaks. Like it still kind of has the flavor of the original, which is important, and that's what I'm looking for in rearrangements just in general. But it does little tiny things, like it puts the main melodies on like a xylophone now, and there's these little haunting little like vocalizations and harp passages that kind of like tie the entire thing together, that like it's spooky, but it isn't just spooky. Like it also feels like this place that is kind of like beset by a curse, and like it has brass in it still, just like all of these songs do, but because of everything else that is going on around it, the brass actually to me almost comes across as like the same flavor that like an accordion would have in a song like this. The brass kind of has in this version of the song, and I feel like it's actually quite appropriate and like tastefully used in this track. And I was really impressed with it in a way that I wasn't like expecting, and I wanted to highlight it because I know that we've dogged, you know, a lot of this stuff up until this point, and this is one where I'm like, I actually do prefer the Switch version.
Yeah, this is like, out of the ones that we have that were slated to play on this episode, this is by far the best new version to me. And yeah, I think this is maybe the best new song in the game or new version of music that I can think of. Yeah, I really liked it. Those female vocals were just, I don't know, just so like mournful. And yeah, you mentioned it sounds like the town is cursed. And yeah, for anyone that hasn't played Thousand Year Door, the town is cursed. Whenever a bell tolls, one of the villagers turns into a pig, which is it's very goofy, but also very like dark. There's one where like a mom turns into a pig, and then the kids are kind of contemplating like, oh, we could eat her, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, just very good. The new version sounds even more Danny Elfman than the original did. I also want to shout out, there's like flutes that come in around 56 seconds that I really, really liked. It just really, it's very good. Like I was glad that you drew my attention to this, because even playing through the Thousand Year Door remake, I don't think I noticed the song as much as I would have liked to when I played it. So going out of my way to listen to it on its own, I'm like, oh yeah, damn, this is pretty good.
Yeah, well, and if I want to put on my sort of like my classic me, like overthinking and being way too sensitive and emotional about everything, if I want to put that cap on when evaluating this song, you know, like this is Vivian's chapter of the game. And so to have the kind of like female voice crying out from the undercurrent of this song, like it makes me think of Vivian and her story. And you know, one of the great things about this remake is that they did sort of remain true to the Japanese, you know, kind of the original kind of interpretation of the character, Vivian being trans and not being accepted by her other sisters and being constantly, you know, picked on and not being accepted or seen as an equal. The music kind of conveyed that to me in a weird way, you know, and like I think about, I don't know if that's what they were going for when like they, you know, when they put together this arrangement, but it definitely made me think of that. And as much as I already loved Vivian, one of my biggest positive takeaways from this replay is like, wow, like she really has just become one of my favorite video game characters, full stop. Not only because, you know, we're back to the kind of like original, like we can finally canonize, and, you know, in a quite bold and progressive move that I wouldn't expect Nintendo to make.
No,
you know?
I did not expect when the day the news broke that they updated that translation and kept it as is in the English version. I was like, oh, like that genuinely feels huge to me coming out of Nintendo.
And it made me feel, for the first time in a long time, proud to be a Nintendo fan. You know, like it made me like, wow, like we're actually saying something, and we are putting an objective stamp, like, hey, y'all don't need to argue about this anymore, even though people still are. Like,
I don't even want to call them people, really, but yes,
yeah, exactly. People are still trying to make the argument that isn't, but they are objectively saying in black and white text, like, this is what this is. And I think that's beautiful. Like, we don't have to leave it up to the people making theory videos on YouTube or whatever anymore. That was shockingly bold, and I was really happy and proud to see that. And yeah, like that entire little arc with Vivian, and like the way that was conveyed, and the way the music makes me think of her, all kind of coalesced into something that I thought was greater than the sum of its parts, I guess. And yeah, I don't know, man. That was really powerful to me in a way that I wasn't expecting on this replay.
Yeah, it's also funny. I didn't notice it until this replay either. And also, I'll be honest, I don't know if I knew about the Vivian being trans in the original Japanese text. I don't know how aware of that I was until more recent years.
Sure.
So like the idea of that whole chapter being Mario losing his name and identity, and then
Totally.
Vivian helping him find it, like those parallels didn't hit me until this replay. I'm like, oh, okay, like the structure of this makes a lot more sense now too. Yeah, no, it's funny. I think this is one of the worst chapters from like a gameplay perspective, but from like the story perspective, I think it's probably the best in the game. I'm trying to think of if I would think another one was as good.
Yeah, I think this certainly is the chapter with the most to say, you know. And I don't know, I really appreciate that. You know, it reminds me a little bit of like Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. Like the sort of underlying theme of that game is like losing your identity and being like, yeah, like you get to choose, you know, and you get to decide what that means for you. And, you know, regardless of whatever everybody else thinks, you get to kind of take control of your own destiny, and, you know, and help other people, and do whatever, you know, whatever that means to you. And I think it's a really beautiful message, even though, you know, that is subtext. It's cool that this remake took some subtext and made it text, you know?
Yeah. Like that's what a remake should be doing, especially like a remake of a game from an era where Nintendo was even more conservative than they are now. And like, yeah, let's fix up this text. And again, I want to be clear that I'm all for changes during translation and localization. I think sometimes it is very necessary, especially when it comes to translating humor and localizing humor. If you're one of those people that always demands purity to the Japanese original, just go learn Japanese, just shut up and do something with your life. Because localization changes are necessary. However, this was clearly just a fear from like a political and blowback perspective in the original release of the game. I mean, so it is shocking. I could not believe that Nintendo actually kept the original Japanese intent in this retranslation of the game. So huge win on that front from like I don't know, just like a progressive standpoint, I guess. But also just from the standpoint of like, oh, it's nice that Nintendo isn't scared of like made up boogeymen anymore.
Right. Well, and like not only that, but like the fact that like the people who are all up in arms about this, and why does my Mario game need to be woke or whatever? It's like, dude, we're talking about literally like 2 or 3 lines in this, you know, 40-hour plus game that mean nothing to you and affect your life in 0 ways, and make such a positive impact on so many other people. The fact that this is in there, that to me is true evil. Like, if you cannot put yourself aside for even a few lines of dialogue among the tens of thousands in this game for
There's
something
a lot of dialogue.
you know, like, if you can't put yourself aside for just that little moment for what means so much to other people, you are truly evil.
Especially in like a game that is intended for a younger audience too.
Right.
Like it is upsetting in a way that, like, yeah, I mean, I knew this would happen, like in a world where if they did localize Vivian as being trans in this new translation, I'm like, oh yeah, can't wait to hear from this crowd. But
Right.
like, the reality is, like, this crowd is, like, I don't want to call them completely insignificant, but it is a fraction of a fraction. And most of these people don't matter in the sense that they're still going to buy your damn game anyway, because it's a remake of a game they like anyway. So it's not worth listening to them in basically any regard. So just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. I don't know. So I just, shout outs to Nintendo for doing that. And it's a good section of the game, and it's a good song. Weren't we talking about Origami King? I don't remember what we were talking about before we got off on Vivian.
The last thing I remember talking about was Bobby the Babam and all that stuff, and how you were talking about how the surface level read of, like, oh, I can't believe they just give us a default Babam. Why don't they give him a hat? Give him a hat. Make him stand. I mean, to be fair, I like it when they give characters hats or whatever. But, like, again, that was the entire intent of the character. I don't know. I guess what in general we were kind of talking about was just, like, people's lack of, like, media literacy, and again, that ties into the surface level read of, again, why didn't they give Bobby a damn hat? But yeah, I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about stuff like that. This is going to be like a bit of a tangent. Maybe it's not even related, but these are just things that I think about sometimes. Whenever my wife and I go to the inner city here, we have to take a subway. And, you know, as someone that grew up almost entirely in Northwest Ohio in the middle of nowhere, where there's, like, no public transportation at all, it is never not fascinating to me to be on, like, a mass transit system of some sort or another. But it also really sucks in the modern age, because there's just a lot of people that are on TikToks or on TikTok, and they don't have headphones in, so you just hear a bunch of bling bling bling, 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 like, it's just a bunch of noise coming from your periphery, and it really sucks. But, like, I think about that. That's what I've been thinking about a lot when I was, like, replaying Thousand Year Door and thinking about other people's reactions to it, and just this idea of, like, people are really scared of, like, being bored, right? I don't know what it is, right, but people are really damn scared of, like, oh, I can't let my mind wander for a second. And, you know, when I've had issues with, like, existential dread since, like, I was 10. I'm not saying that to make it sound like I think I'm smarter than anyone, but to emphasize the fact that I understand. I've had a fear of weird stuff since, like, I shouldn't have. And it is sometimes hard to deal with my own thoughts and be stuck with my own thoughts. But that said, I don't like just pure distractions like that, like on my phone. Like, if I am browsing my phone in public, it's usually I'm looking something up that is relevant to what I'm doing, or I'm checking a text message with, like, my friends or my wife or whatever. I don't want just noise and colors shooting out into my brain because it doesn't benefit me. And if anything, it just kind of makes me anxious and annoyed. But I think about that a lot in, like, a modern context of, like, people who just, like, there's a cutscene in a video game and then they just instantly grab their phone and they're looking at their phone, right? And, you know, at one point in my life, I was sort of guilty of it too. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I like, what is it about modern Paper Mario that, like, the fans of the older game just can't gel with? And I'm not saying it's that necessarily, but I do think there is, like, this aversion to anything that's, like, different within the confines of an established series, even though there are way more quote-unquote traditional Paper Mario entries than there are traditional Paper Mario entries, you know? there's only 2 that have that old battle system that you like. You'd think at this point you'd be used to the idea that they don't have that anymore. And again, I've said repeatedly, the original Paper Mario is my favorite Nintendo game of all time. It's either that or Tropical Freeze. I don't know. I'd have to think about it, but I would be ecstatic if they made a new Paper Mario game that has a battle system similar to 64 and Thousand Year Door with modern design inputs and whatever, but has like the level design and story and whatever of Origami King or Color Splash. No one would like that more than me. I would go so far as to say I would be the happiest person in the Paper Mario fandom if that was their next Paper Mario game. But at the same time, I love Color Splash and Origami King for what they are, and part of that is what other people perceive as flaws. So, yeah, I don't know. I would love to hear from people, like either in like a Discord fashion or whatever. Like, what is it that you are so averse to when it comes to this stuff? Is it just like, is it nostalgia? Is it like you're worried about like being bored? Like I think about people who. Another thing I think about randomly is like the people who really want a new Star Tropics game. Like why? Again, I like Star Tropics for what it is. I would hazard a guess I have played more Star Tropics than most of the people that claim to want a new Star Tropics.
For sure, yeah.
So I'm not opposed to there being a new Star Tropics, but tell me, why do you want a new Star Tropics beyond the fact that, oh, it's an old thing that Nintendo hasn't made a new one of in a few decades? Like, okay, but why do you want that? Like, what is there to want beyond just it's a carrot on a stick that you think you want? And then there's also, UFO 50 that just got a new trailer a few days ago, and it does seem like there's a new Star Tropics like in there, which I find really interesting, but I don't really see anyone besides myself talking about that aspect of it, So
right.
My thoughts are very muddled. I know, like I'm thinking about like 7 different things at once, but it mostly just comes down to, I would love to hear from anyone whose favorite Paper Mario is Thousand Year Door, and you've actually played all of them or most of them, or at least the more modern ones, and you actually have like some thoughts you want to share beyond just Origami King doesn't have the battle system, right?
Yeah, it's really, I think about like the people who are like, why doesn't Capcom just make a new Dino Crisis? It's like, why would they ever do that, man? And and like I think about that all the time, like that's not in these companies' best interest, even though you love that IP. I love Star Tropics, and for me, and this is similar to a point that I meant to make earlier and forgot to, similar to Paper Mario, hey, guess what, man? If I want to play a Paper Mario game that is like those old Paper Mario games, I have Bug Fables,
right.
I'll just play that. And, hey, that's better than this, way better than this game anyways. And, if I, for me as a Star Tropics fan, I have The Tourist, which to me gave me a lot of those same feelings that playing Star Tropics did. So it isn't as if you don't have a place to go to recapture some of these feelings. So all you're really pining for are characters and titles.
Or a name, like
a name, right? Like, so like if that is the sort of like, if you'll pardon the pun, the paper thin line that you've drawn for yourself of what makes an announcement cool or exciting to you, then like, how excited are you for it really? Because the inverse of that is when a series comes back and it is completely indistinguishable from, what you loved about it anyways. Like people are talking about, the new Fable and everything, and it doesn't look a whole lot like the old Fable games. I'm looking forward to it, but like it, and it captures like the tone of Fable that I like, but it's not, it's not as if they're carrying forward some new thing. And the other huge extreme of this is we saw Dragon Age: The Veilguard this past weekend. I think that game looks like garbage, and it looks way worse than the Dragon Age that I liked. So like on paper, it's like, oh my god, Dragon Age is back and BioWare's back. It's like, cool. The people that made the BioWare games that I liked are gone.
Right.
And like Dragon Age: The Veilguard looks nothing like the Dragon Age that I actually like. So it really is just a title, and it is just Varric's back, and like I don't care about any of that.
Right. I
So
mean,
like,
you can
Sorry, go
even
ahead.
make no, sorry. I was just gonna say you can even make that argument with Paper Mario. Like the director of the first 3 Paper Mario games doesn't direct games anymore. So like
right.
the people in charge of the Paper Mario series, they for whatever reason, whether it's lack of interest in making another one like the first 2, or them just feeling like they don't have the know-how or whatever, or just they wanted to make something else, they just have decided they're not doing that, you know? Like it I don't know. Like what is the why do we have to shackle creatives to this unending want for a specific thing if they don't even want to do it? What's the point?
Just keep making the thing that I like over and over again until you die, please. You know, like,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
know.
I think a lot about like Sakurai, who again is one of my favorite game designers of all time. I would say he maybe is my number 1 favorite game designer of all time, but a lot of that is because of his work on stuff like Kirby Superstar and Kid Icarus Uprising as opposed to Smash Bros. And again, I say that as someone that loves Smash Bros. But like, if Sakurai had never made another Smash Bros. Game and we never had another one, I'd be okay with that as long as he still creates more stuff that he wants to do, you know, and that maybe won't kill him in the process. I don't know, but yeah, no, maybe we should take another break there. It's been a little bit.
Yeah, well, and I'll just say too, like
Yeah.
Sakurai's a great point of comparison because Kid Icarus Uprising is maybe the perfect corollary to kind of what we're talking about, where that's the return of a franchise that looks completely different. The old Kid Icarus games suck, man.
Yeah,
And,
they
like,
do. They're bad.
Kid Icarus Uprising comes back. That only came back because Sakurai wanted to make that game, and like he put so much of his own stamp and his own DNA on it. And guess what? Now you've got Kid Icarus back, and none of y'all played it because you're just so butthurt about the controls of it. Which
And also, and
are
it's
actually,
like one of the best Nintendo games ever made, one of the best Nintendo soundtracks
Yes.
ever made, the best Nintendo story ever made. Like,
and if you give the controls more than 5 minutes, they're actually amazing. And if and when they port that game to Switch, it won't feel as good as it did on 3DS.
No.
I'm sorry to say. So, you know, that's something that really, really frustrates me, is when people like say they want this thing and then they get it and like, well, I didn't want it like that.
right.
You know?
Like trust in the creators, you know, trust in like Sakurai's a talented dude. Even if you don't like everything he does, he's undeniably like he's considered like a wunderkind in the Japanese game industry for a reason, you know? Like trust in Sakurai, man.
We can't. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
I'm not trying to. I'm just heated.
I genuinely wasn't expecting the tone of this episode to be quite like this, but that's fine. I was gonna make a joke about we're gonna take a break and then play Kid Icarus Uprising music.
Just play Orem Island for him or something.
Oh man, that is one of the ones that I was gonna think of. Anyway, let's take a heated break. We're gonna play you Excess Express Evening to cool you down, and then we'll come back and start ranting again.
Oh my god.
That was Excess Express Evening. This was like my number one must-have in this episode. This is my favorite song from Thousand Year Door. So the cool thing about Excess Express, that's where Chapter 6 takes place. You're on a 3-day train journey to Poshley Heights to get the Crystal Star there, and you travel throughout the day, the evening, and night. And the vibes are so good the entire time. Again, long distance train travel. I've never done it. It is very romanticized in my head. I would like to think that me being on a train for 3 days at sunset, it would sound exactly like this. It's just the best vibe in the game to me. I really love it. It genuinely makes me emotional. As someone that didn't immediately click with Thousand Year Door back when it first came out, again, Paper Mario 64 was the game that got me more into games, and then Thousand Year Door kind of just didn't really land for me at first. When I did get to this chapter and this specific part, like, yeah, even as like a 14, 15-year-old kid, I was like genuinely getting emotional at this. I think the remade version of this did a great job. I don't think it's better than the original, but I do think it did a pretty damn good job. I like the violin, even though it is a little overwrought and a little too much, but I like it. It is a good concept. And I really love, I don't know, just like over a minute in, there's like a synth sound. It almost sounds like an announcement chime that's coming in over the speakers, which I think is the intent.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. I love the song. I love both versions of the song. It's very good.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't like it better than the original either, because I mean, the original is very like ethereal and layered. I have in my notes here, feels like rest area music, like Final Fantasy save point music or something, like,
or even like Kirby Superstar's rest area music.
Totally. It feels very like, yeah, just cozy and like chill, but it's got those little knocks in there, and like the chunky little bass notes in there that, you know, give it a little bit of texture. It's not just pure, it's not just purely ethereal. But you get to the Switch version, and yeah, that main melody is done with violin now, as you say, and it does kind of class it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But it kind of like it makes you feel like you're on like the Titanic or something, like you're on like a luxury, craft. You're on a luxury train. But because of that, I do feel like it loses a lot of that ethereal quality. Because the melody is so much more in your face, because it's being done on like string violin. But at the same time, the new version has like the actual bass tone is much more layered. There's a couple of different like underlying bass tones to it, which I do like, and I do think that kind of brings a little bit of that back. And in a way, one of my favorite, it's funny, is on episode 0 of the show, we talked about the Phantom Train from Final Fantasy VI, and like that sort of cha-chung, cha-chung, of like the train going over the rails. And I feel like the music kind of, in this new version, the bass almost provides a little bit of that flavor to it that I like. Kind of gives it like a little bit of a groan, So yeah, I don't like it quite as much. I do think it loses a little bit of the original flavor, but I do still like it quite a lot.
Do you know the band Whitney?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think they're pretty indie. I haven't listened to them in like, I don't know, it's been quite a while, but there's a song by them called No Woman, and the opening line is like, I left drinking on the city train to spend some time on the road. But I remember in some YouTube comment or something, someone thought it was High Life drinking on the city train, and then they were commenting on just how different just that one tiny little change like completely changes the entire tone of the song.
Yeah.
And yeah, that it's funny you bring that up. Yeah, the violins really do class it up. This is High Life drinking on the Excess Express as opposed to I Left drinking on the Excess Express.
What a good pull. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's funny how like a simple little change like that can totally change the way that song feels. And I'm not saying it's like it's not a million times worse or something, but like it does lose a little bit of that original flavor and intent, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, like again, a running theme with the new soundtrack is just that it's a lot of times there's just like a little too much going on. In that
Right.
regard, I do want to quickly just take like a 30-second pause. You and I don't need to pause in real life or whatever, but I'm going to put a pause here so that you can hear the Miss Mao's theme, the original, and then the remade version. Just so like, I think this is the perfect example of how it goes a little too much, even though the original Miss Mao's theme is also pretty hectic anyway. So I'm going to put that pause right here. And that was the Miss Mao's theme. And it really, to me, the Miss Mao's remade theme sounds like it's almost like a bad OC remix of the Miss Mao's theme from the GameCube.
Dude. Yes. I have my notes on this, you could even tell with the way I wrote these notes. I was pissed when I was writing these notes. I was mad because I listened to the songs back to back and I have GameCube. Love the kind of Darude Sandstorm quality this has. But also a lot of like offbeat whistle sounds like train whistles and like shrill little chords that kind of sound like a mouse. And then I have It's Kinda a Lot. But then for the Switch version, I wrote 1, 2, 3 ? Exclamation point. What the hell is this? Every rough edge was smoothed here, totally devoid of personality. DJ scratches? Get rid of the train whistles and replace them with weird synth that doesn't match the character whatsoever. I was cooking. My pen was on fire.
I genuinely was shocked when I heard this the first time. And again, I think a lot of this, like, I think it's good on paper. Again, like, I kind of like the idea of like the 1, 2, 3 or the 3, 2, 1. I forget if it's up or down, but it just isn't. It doesn't work. It doesn't work in this case. The main note I wrote down was just "It's so damn busy!" exclamation mark. Selfishly, I really just wanted to make sure we fit that in because I have multiple YouTube comments about Miss Mao's theme and just Miss Mao's in general that I want to read off. So I had to justify sticking that in there.
Sure.
But also, I really thought that was like the perfect example of like just what the failures of this new version of the soundtrack are. Again, I think overall the new soundtrack is good, but that one in particular, I'm just like, what is happening? It like set my teeth on edge.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like it's one of those where I'm like, I almost can't believe it. Like I didn't really notice it. Like when playing the game, I didn't really like take note of the Ms. Mao's music, but listening to it on its own, I'm like, dude, like, what is this?
Yeah. It really, it genuinely feels, like I said, like an OC remix, but from like 2002, like a very early, like bad OC remix of Miss Mao's theme. Anyway, let's talk more about Kid Icarus Uprising real quick.
Right. Yeah. I can't wait. We gotta do that episode sometime soon, man.
On the list of potential episodes, that was like the third thing I wrote down was Kid Icarus Uprising.
Yeah.
I genuinely think that's like, that is a top 5 Nintendo soundtrack ever.
Absolutely.
And I guess at this point, I'm kind of just waiting to see if that rumored remaster does come around, because then I guess we'll time it around that theoretically. And hey, there should be a direct dropping in the next 2 weeks, so maybe we'll find out then.
Dude, that's I am not the type of person to get like animated and excited about an announcement, but that I will leap out of my chair if that happens.
There aren't many that I get that excited about either, and usually it's Smash Bros. Characters related, again, like Mega Man or Simon Belmont in Smash. But yeah, I would actually probably like Yelp.
Yeah. Well, and I mean too, you know, the to the point we were making earlier about the sort of, you know, like the media literacy that I'm begging people to have, you know, like please come into this and support, like when, you know, when stuff like this does happen, when we do get these new entries that do try something new, like put your money where your mouth is a little bit, you know? And I don't know, like that really upset, like the reception to Kid Icarus Uprising was one of the first times, especially in the modern age, where I was like, wait, I didn't realize other people don't like this. Like,
right.
I didn't realize that, like, I was alone and, like, hang on, what are you people talking about? You know?
Not to turn this into, like, a full-on Kid Icarus Uprising section or anything, but, like, even the multiplayer ruled in that. It was, like...
It's awesome.
It was, like, third-person shooter Smash Bros. With, like, grind rails and stuff. It ruled. Man, yeah. Yeah, we'll schedule Kid Icarus Uprising. It maybe if it doesn't show up in the direct... We'll just do it anyway at some point in the next few months. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else we want to say about Paper Mario before we get to our last break? I mean, I know we do. I guess I'm just phrasing it that way.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I guess just to, like, you know, and I hope that people don't listen to this episode and be like, wow, like they were really pissed this whole time. Like you know,
about a lot of different things too. Yeah.
What I appreciate about the way this conversation has gone, and you know, we came into this episode not really knowing exactly what we were going to talk about, because we have covered this game in so many different facets between this and between our lengthy conversation on All In last week and everything, that I encourage people, if you want like more kind of focused Thousand Year Door discussion, you can go back and listen to that episode. We get into it, and it's genuinely a really good episode and a great conversation. I was really happy with the way that turned out, but with this, like, it is kind of nice to get to talk broadly about Paper Mario and the sort of like, yeah, the disconnect of Paper Mario fans and like media literacy and sort of what you actually want from a franchise versus what you're getting, and the way that we're evaluating a lot of these franchises. I think it's important as people, if we are going to concede that we, you know, consider ourselves like people that take video games seriously as an art form, like we need to be willing to evaluate this stuff and criticize this stuff, even if we have deep nostalgia for it, even if it is something that means a lot to us, even if, you know, it means that you're going to brush up against things that you might not be comfortable with accepting. Maybe you like things and maybe you don't. I would have loved nothing more than to glaze the Thousand Year Door for 2.5 hours, you know? But like, I think it's genuinely, I think it's really important to go back and reevaluate the way you feel about art. And if you have these like deep held beliefs of like Ocarina of Time is the greatest game ever made, maybe go back to it and see if you still feel that way.
Right.
You know?
Because I was glib about it earlier, but like, yeah, Ocarina of Time for its time. Yeah, I totally get it. But like in 2024, like, yeah, man, when a younger person plays that for the first time, they're like, oh, as evidenced by a younger person playing it for the first time that sent it in a voicemail to this podcast. You know, Wilk, one of my best friends, he loves just trash talking Mario 64. But I get it. Like, I love Mario 64. To me, like, it is in a lot of ways still, like, I'd say besides Odyssey, it probably is maybe my favorite 3D Mario still. I think that's also another one Presto doesn't like, which is funny. But like, yeah,
Or 64. Yeah.
yeah, but I totally get why someone who like wasn't around in 1996, I was barely around in 1996. I was still a pretty small kid at that point, but yeah, you got to readjust or adjust to the controls, the camera. Mario 64 is not a game that like holds up to a lot of modern scrutiny. Again, I agree that like you should take things to a certain extent for when they came out and evaluate them there too. But yeah, that doesn't make them immune to criticism in 2024. Quite the opposite. Like, the only reason we get better Zelda games is because the designers of Ocarina of Time looked at it and said, what can we do differently? What can we improve on? And yeah, we get better games. Maybe you don't like them as much, but also I would hazard a guess, maybe you just are nostalgic for your childhood, would be my hunch.
Sure.
But
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. And I think it's also like, if we're going to say that we value deep video game discussion and talking about what this art means to us and the way that we talk to each other about it, like, we also have to be willing to accept that stuff and reevaluate it from that perspective. Because, I made a Zelda tier list video last year, and the amount of comments I got that were like,
Dude.
well, I stopped the second you put Ocarina of Time in the B tier, I stopped watching.
If anything, B tier is like a little high for me for Ocarina of Time. Like,
So I'm like, and I spent a lot of time explaining exactly why I put it there, and that is what we say we want. We say that we want to have these in-depth conversations about games. You're not equipped to have those conversations if you're just leaving your memories 30 years in the past, you
Right.
know? And
you're also
never reevaluating or challenging your opinion.
You're also not equipped to have those conversations if you're going to get mad at a stranger on the internet because they said Ocarina of Time is a B tier
Right.
Zelda game. I'd say you're not really equipped to deal with anything besides like some anti-depression meds or something. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. This conversation, I really enjoyed it, but yeah, it's so all over the place that I don't know. I don't even remember what we have covered and not covered when it comes to Paper Mario at this point. So I don't know that I have much to add on to the general Paper Mario-ness beyond just saying, for one, Bug Fables is better than all of these games, despite my nostalgia for Paper Mario 64 and just the series in general. If you really want to play a new Paper Mario game that has better gameplay than all of them and has the turn-based combat that you want from the first two, it's Bug Fables. Drop what you're doing. Buy that game. I think even not on sale, it only costs like $15 or something, but it goes on sale.
$24.99.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it goes on sale all the time too. Yeah, it is incredible. I really want to replay it. That's kind of like my last stop on this Paper Mario replay tour. I don't know if I'm going to have time anytime soon, but
It's long.
Yeah. It's really genuinely what I want to get to the most in terms of replaying stuff right now, after Origami King, of course. And also, I also want to emphasize, I hope that me saying like, hey, like, what don't you like about Origami King? Like, I'd like to hear an actual take on it. I don't want that to come across as me attacking, and I don't want that to come across as me saying like, you need to validate your opinions. You don't, and to me especially, you don't need to validate anything to anyone. However, if you want to have the conversation, you do. Right? Like,
don't step to me with that, right? Like,
well, right. Especially if you're going to attack my opinion when I haven't done anything to attack yours. Like, yeah, I would just love to know what you don't like about Origami King in a way that is measured and in a way that has things to say beyond like, it didn't really do it for me. Like, okay, but why?
Yeah.
Like,
thanks for adding nothing to that conversation. Like, and I think that, like, even though we did go a lot of places today on this episode, Matt, I do think that I do think that everything that we touched on is very indicative of the Thousand Year Door in particular, and like Paper Mario as a series. I think in many ways, like, the things that we've touched on are more true of the Thousand Year Door and Paper Mario than like almost anything else, especially in the modern sort of zeitgeist in light of this remake. So I do think that the things that we've talked about today are important in their own way, even though I know that people might be listening to this and like, they didn't talk about the game all that much. You
Hey,
know, we
again,
look,
if you want to hear about that, listen to the all in. Was that number 208, episode 208?
208.
That's all we talked about for like an hour and a half, and then we had like an hour beforehand about other stuff. But I guess real quick, I mentioned it on that all in review. The new super bosses in the post game of the Thousand Year Door remake are incredible. It sucks what you have to do to reach one in particular, but just to throw it out there, I did do everything. Well, I didn't complete all the cooking stuff and whatever, but in terms of major content and especially new content, I did do everything. I really like Thousand Year Door. I would go so far as to say I love Thousand Year Door. It is just low on my Paper Mario totem pole, so you don't need to get too upset unless you're transphobic, and then I guess you can get upset. But I think you're going to stay upset for the rest of your life anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, you can get out of here with all that. Yeah, so I definitely, you know, I love the game too in a lot of ways, but you know, it's not. Those things can both be true.
Yeah,
right. Like
of course.
like opinions have nuance to them, and it's not just simply like, well, I guess Seth hates Thousand Year Door. You know, it's not as simple as that. You know, and I know that, you know, modern sort of internet brain rot and discourse will hear any criticism as sort of, you know, a condemnation of the entire thing, and that's not the case.
Or like, yeah, like a declaration of like, let's fight. And it's like, no, I don't want to fight with anyone. Truly, right. I like having conversations. That's why we do this podcast, because it's you're a fun person to do conversations with, even if you don't know anything about Mega Man, Seth.
Yeah, this will be really meta for people that listen on Patreon, but like, yeah, Eric and I did like a 3.5 hour episode of Side Quest where we talked about, Eric and I like yelled at each other about Dragon Age Veilguard essentially, and then like at a certain point I criticized like the title of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle because it's a stupid title.
It's pretty bad, yeah.
And he's like, I think you're just looking for reasons to be mad or whatever. I'm like, no, like I'm trying to have a conversation here.
Huh.
You know?
I don't think I've seen anyone say they like that title, so I'm all right.
So I just want to throw it out there that, yeah, like we're not being angry or loud or critiquing things for the sake of it. I am happy to have legitimate conversations about all of these things. That's the whole reason we do this at all.
And I also hope that, as always, that we come across as lighthearted, because this is pretty just silly fun and we're laughing a lot. So
video games, dude.
Yeah, it's not too serious. And yeah, Paper Mario rules, play all of them, especially the best one, Origami King. Anyway, let's take our last break of the episode. We'll come back, talk about it a little bit, and then we will do our YouTube comment over sharing corner. And this final break song this episode is the X-Not Fortress First Floor, and we will be right back. that was the X Naught Fortress First Floor. Good one to end on, I think, because I don't really have that many notes beyond.
Neither do I.
Like,
Yeah.
I think besides the Rogueport Sewers, I think this is the catchiest song in the game. This is one of the songs that, like, when I think of Thousand Year Door, I think of this song. It's one of the first ones that come to mind. I'll also just add, like, the remake reminds me of, like, from, like, a modern Tekken game is kind of what it makes me think of.
Yeah, I have in my notes, like sounds like a fighting game training mode.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's totally what it sounds like. And as somebody, I listen to the Tekken 8 soundtrack every day, and have for like the past month. Maybe we'll talk about this pretty soon on the show. It's probably my favorite soundtrack of the year thus far. And I've been listening to a lot. And I've not even played Tekken 8. And like there is something about like the tone of that song does feel very fighting game coded in a good way.
Yeah, it's very like confrontational almost. Like yeah, I don't know. It's really good. I really like that chapter of the game in general. Or at least specifically that location, I guess is what I mean. I think they do some fun things with it. That all said, do we want to get to the YouTube comment oversharing corner?
Nothing would give me more pleasure. I can't wait.
Be careful what you wish for on this one. I found a couple doozies in this one. But as a reminder, this is the section of the show where we read off any funny or memorable or interesting or just downright insane comments that we stumble across while hunting for music to play this episode. Did you have any ones that you added, or were these all ones that I noted here?
These are all yours. I was happy with what you'd found, so I didn't feel the need to add more.
Okay, and then I'll read off one and then I'll pass it off to you.
Okay.
I'll go with this one first. This was for Rogueport Sewers of the GameCube version. This was from YouTube user not best Trophim. And he commented on this 6 months ago with, "I finally Fuxing found it, holy sure." I don't know if those are purposeful typos or he was just very excited that after years of looking for this song, he finally found it. It's also, it's very good because it is Rogueport Sewers. It is the song from the game, so I thought it was cute that he was just that excited about it.
I love that it took and it's not a hard song to find.
No, it's not.
I'm like, hey, I wonder what the song that plays in the Rogueport Sewers is called. How on earth would I find that on YouTube? Maybe it's by searching Rogueport Sewers.
I imagine realistically probably what it is that like he heard it in like a Nintendo compilation music video on YouTube and didn't note it or something. But yeah, I do like imagining that like he played Thousand Year Door and just he's really searching for this, especially because like when you just bring up the soundtrack, it is one of the first songs that comes up because you go down there pretty quick in the game.
Right.
Do you want to take any one of these?
Okay. Oh man, I want there's some very good ones related to Ms. Mouse that I guess we can save for the end. I'll just take this from Monkey Gaming 2841. This is just from 4 months ago, commented on X Naught Fortress First Floor, which we just heard. When you have to dial a really long number. Which is what it sounds like. All those beeps and boops. That's pretty good.
I usually don't mess with the sanctity of the music I'm playing with behind the YouTube comment oversharing corner, but I will definitely add in the beeps for that specific part right there. Because I really like that comment a lot.
I definitely had when you were when we were kids, we had to actually. This sounds so like boomer or whatever, but when we were kids, we had to dial with a dial tone on phones, and it made little chimes, and I remember the way that my home phone number sounded, the little song that played when I called home, That's stuff, and so this made me think of that.
Yeah, it made me think of that. It also made me think of, like, I still remember my grandma's phone number from when I was like 5 years old, because I would call her all the time. Like, I still remember not just the number, but also like on the number pad, like the pattern that I would do. Like, oh, here I go down left, up, down. Like, it made me, for such a simple, goofy comment. Yeah, it made me think about a lot of stuff like that.
Did you? So I think this is a Chicagoland area specific commercial from my childhood that is very nostalgic. It's burned in my brain. I'll never forget it as long as I live. And I don't know if this kind of bled over into where you grew up, but there was a brand called Luna, and it had a commercial that just goes 773-202, and then it goes beep beep boop boop Luna, like, and it just, like, that is so, like, I think about that commercial like once a week. It just, that jingle just pops into my head, and it's including the phone dial boop beep boop boop, you know, like, I think about that all the time, and I showed it to my wife recently, and she's like, what the hell are you talking about? You know, but it's a huge part of my childhood. Sure.
No, I don't think I'm familiar with that. It sounds like something that would have also caught into my head. I mean, I have a billion different dumb commercial jingles from back then, so yeah, it doesn't surprise me that one with a like a dial tone kind of thing is stuck in your head.
Yeah. 773 is the Chicago area code, so I assumed I assumed that it was a specifically Chicagoland like area commercial, but yeah, every kid if anybody listening is from Chicago, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I grew up in Milwaukee, so we were bitter rivals back then. But yeah, I don't think we were getting Chicago commercials up there. This comment from YouTube user ZoneFire15 is from a year ago, and it's on the GameCube version of Twilight Town, and it just says oink. Which, it's an easy joke to make, but the main reason I really liked it is just because YouTube offered to translate it into English for me.
That's pretty good.
And then when I clicked it didn't do anything, so
yeah, that's pretty good. Oink, because, you know, Twilight Town, everybody's getting turned into pigs, so I guess the Zonefire 15, I guess, was also turned into a pig.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess that's the implication there. I guess I'll take this last one that is actually kind of sweet.
Yes, it is sweet, but also it gets into like the dead grandma YouTube comment genre.
Yeah, I'll tackle this before we get into these last two. This is from SK Treble. Just 10 days ago on XS Express Evening, the Switch version specifically, they say, "Thank you, Nintendo. Thank you, Yuka Tsujiyoko. Thank you, Intelligent Systems. You help me keep living. This is so beautiful. It reminds me of sitting in airports in the evening as a kid with my dad, playing Pokemon Crystal on my purple Game Boy Color, looking out at a giant yellow moon in the sky. I may have mixed feelings about him, but may my adopted father rest wherever he believes in."
I can't. I was losing it.
There's so much lore in that comment.
Yeah, that's why I classified it as it dabbles into the dead grandma genre, but it really takes it to a new place. It really went places with that one. Yeah, the mixed feelings on the stepfathers.
There's something
that
is
adopted father. Sorry,
adopted father. Yeah, there's a this is really going there. So stick with me on this. There's something poetic about like that last line, like, I may have mixed feelings about him, but may my adopted father rest wherever he believes in. Mm-hmm. Like, really kind of, I don't know, like, there's something kind of beautiful about that sentiment, I guess.
Yeah, it is.
It reminds me, like, one of my favorite poems of all time is called Blessing the Boats by Lucille Clifton, and the ending line of that song is like, may you and your innocence sail through this to that. And that kind of reminds me of that. Like may you rest wherever you believe in. I don't know. I kind of really liked that.
Yeah, no, I like it. It's also, I almost view it as like kind of, it's almost like bitter, but also like he's gotten past it a little bit. Like, well, whatever you're doing, I hope you're okay in the afterlife or whatever.
Yeah.
Also, this is a very specific reference to Pokemon Crystal, but it made me think about the magnet train, like how you could go back and forth between Kanto and Johto later in the post game. And I don't know, just something about like, because when you do that, your character is just like sitting kind of like bouncing in front of a window of the magnet train, just looking out. And then, you know, this is also for the Excess Express. And then he talked about the Pokemon Crystal on his purple Game Boy. Like, I don't know, yeah, it brought to mind a lot in a very short span of time. And again, the like, you help me keep living, that's also very, I don't know what that is, but that's something. Yeah, no, I overall I thought this comment was beautiful, but also, yeah, a little heartbreaking in its own way, and also nostalgic. It's everything I like about YouTube comments wrapped up into one thing. And
hell of a comment,
because of the nature of this being a recently released game, it was also made just 10 days ago, so congrats SK Treble for that one.
Yeah, you get the gold star of this episode for sure. Okay. These last two, man. These last two are a lot.
Yeah. What I really appreciated about what just happened is that you chose to save these for last as opposed to the sweet sentimental, so we get to end on this nonsense.
I love, well, because I love something that we didn't really talk about is how horny this game is.
Yeah, we didn't get as into it as I thought we would.
Like, the 1,000-Year Door is a weirdly horny game, and in fact, something that was very prevalent in the Mario fanfiction community around the time this game came out is a lot of like sort of self-insert, like isekai 1,000-Year Door, like all of a sudden I'm dating these characters kind of fanfic. And these comments on Ms. Mouse's theme, I think are I think a little indicative of that.
Also, I will say real quick before we read these that, like, I've never really seen fan art of Mario characters. You know, they do the things with other series where they turn like anthropomorphic animals or whatever into humanoid versions of themselves. Right. I'd never seen that for any Mario character ever until looking up 1,000-Year Door stuff, and then I was seeing like human Bobbery, and yeah, he looked pretty cool. They did a good job with the human Bobbery, but yeah, I think that's also indicative of just like, yeah, the general thirstiness of the 1,000-Year Door community. Maybe that's why people like 1,000-Year Door so much, because like the later games don't
like
have
a sexual
that.
Awakening for them.
Honestly, maybe, I don't know. We don't need to analyze it anymore, though. I will read this set of comments. This is on Miss Mouse's theme GameCube version from 1 year ago by Diagonal Tanuki. In all caps, he declares to the world, "I have lost gallons. Take for that what you will." And then, as a response, 13 days ago, original Joe King responded with "ew."
Oh man. You know, Hemingway could tell a story in just 4 words. And that is what has happened here.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I'll also just read this next comment since it's directly related. Also, our last comment of the day. YouTube user Sem_Aki commented on Miss Mouse's theme, the Switch version, 11 days ago. They raw dogged the song. I don't know if that is a good or a bad thing in this context. Also, I really wanted to note that it is edited. So he wrote something before and decided to edit it, and this is what the edited version is. They raw dogged.
This is the
song.
Final draft.
Yeah,
this is the final draft.
He messed something up. He wasn't able to clarify exactly what he meant until this edit, and boy did he clarify.
Yeah, he clarified like whatever that statement is meant to mean. It's so funny that these are like about Ms. Mouse's theme in general, which like the song itself sucks. Yeah. So like I assume they're talking about Ms. Mouse the character. I don't know. But yeah, that's pretty good.
Sorry for anyone that listens to the show with your kid. I think Shy Guy I'll shout you out. I apologize.
We're dancing around it. We're dancing around it. We're tap dancing around what's going on here. Hopefully your kid doesn't pick up on the subtext, Shy Guy.
But anyway, that has been the YouTube comment oversharing corner. I would say it was our best one yet, but it's maybe our worst one yet. I don't know, but it was the most something yet of our YouTube comment oversharing corners. And with that is basically the end of our episode. As per usual, I will let Seth take over on the Discord and Patreon front. Other than to say, you can always send in voicemails to bitharmonypod@gmail.com, comment in the Discord, whatever you want, leave ratings, reviews, blah, blah, blah. Seth, go ahead with the stuff.
Please send in those voicemails, and again, no promises, but we would like to have other ways, and we'll obviously announce it here and in the Discord if and when those things are implemented. So stay tuned for that. Do join the Discord. We got links in the show notes for that. It's free, it's friendly, it's welcoming. If you like the show, if you want to talk about the show, there's a dedicated Bit Harmony sub-channel in the Discord for you to do that. That's also where Matt will put the call out for reminders on voicemails, and that's where you can send in, anything you want us to read or talk about on the show or whatever. So do that. And yeah, shout outs to our patrons. If you support the show on Patreon, it's patreon.com/allinpodcast. You get early access to the show and other exclusive content that goes up there all the time. Even just at the $1 tier, you can get early access to episodes of Bit Harmony. So hit the link in the show notes for that as well. And in addition to that, we like to thank our patrons at the Golden Banana and Triforce tier here at the end of the show. Bit Harmony is made possible by viewers like you. Thank you. So let's thank our patrons, starting with our Golden Banana Bunch. Thank you to Rob Yapel, Sean O'Baggins, Ashton, Tim A, aka Neoprime33, aka Nintendo Dad number 4, Phelan Ward, Bill Tucker, Marcus O'Neill, Liam D, Gamer Jason, Andrew Wilkins, Alan #Look to the Cookie, Solo, SAZ, and blah blah blah. Thank you to our Golden Banana Bunch. You can also get a 7-day free trial to that tier and join their ranks and try it out for free for a week. Thank you to our Triforce tier, Josh Vaughn, John Cummins, Sparky, Adam Caparello, Shy Guy, Danielina Hosa, Dan and Luma, Bowza, The Don Rob, Foolish Fuji, and Uncle Randy. Thank you to our Triforce tier supporters. All kinds of stuff. Discounts on merch are over there as well. alln.media. You can get a Bit Harmony tee or a sticker over there. Yeah, thanks for listening, y'all. Thanks for your support on Patreon. And I'm excited for the next episode already.
Yeah, so the next episode is on June 30th, and we're going to be covering our favorite game music or soundtracks. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to work yet thus far in 2024. So this is actually a perfect one for voicemails or comments you want read off on the show. I would say if you have any specific songs from games in 2024 that you want played on the show, this is the time. This is the perfect time to send in voicemails or emails for that explicit purpose. I don't know what the scope of that episode's going to be like yet. We're still figuring that out because I'm going to want to talk about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth for a long time.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. And it was interesting because when we've plotted out a lot of our episodes well in advance, and when we looked at this, like, oh, hey, we have an episode going live on June 30th. That is the perfect middle mark of the year. So what better time than to kind of give a mid-year check-in of our favorite game music, of 2024 up through that point. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking for you'll talk about Final Fantasy VII. I'll be talking about Tekken 8. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah. I've listened to a bit of the Tekken 8 soundtrack also, and yeah, it is fantastic. So yeah, looking forward to that. So again, if you have any particular favorite songs that you would like played on the episode and we will react to it, blah, 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 this is the time. This is your time. So please.
This is your moment. Get
those in. But otherwise, that's going to do it for us here at Bit Harmony this episode. Taking us out this week is An Awfully Long Time Ago, ... That is what, the intro music to Paper Mario Thousand Year Door? Okay. It is a good one. It is very nostalgic and sweet and, yeah, just kind of, I don't know, representative of a lot of how I feel about Thousand Year Door, even if those feelings didn't exactly come through that way in this episode. But thank you all, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.